welcome to episode 75 of the Wilderness Podcast, your old school RuneScape variety podcast on every single week. I think, is that what we're going with currently?
As of right now, yeah, I guess.
Okay, well, we'll stick with that one. I'm your host, Dilz, and with me every single week is Deegan.
Hey, how's it going?
The going's pretty good. How's it going with you?
Not too bad. Real life, nothing too much to talk about.
Oh, kadoki.
And RuneScape-wise, I guess the usual, a couple Vorkath kills, some raids, and some TzHaar. Yeah.
Any big loot?
The only thing I got was a whip from TzHaar. That's about it. The rest is just typical stuff.
It's not bad.
Nothing from raids, nothing from Vorkath.
Nice.
I think that's it, though. I haven't really done too much. I've kind of just been doing the same couple things on RS the past, month. Oh, no, we did some Bandos on the weekend, but didn't get anything from that.
Yeah, that was, that's always pretty fun. It's more fun to do those God Wars bosses in a group than it is to do it solo.
Yeah.
I know we've touched on it before, but it's crazy how with, a solo run, you'll get a couple kills, and then with a group, you can get, 30 kills divided amongst yourselves, you know what I mean?
Yeah, if you're there with 4 people, you can pretty much stay there forever.
Yeah, it's not
like a
not
bando
too
specifically. But yeah, I don't know. What about you? What did you do this week?
Well, let's see. The beginning of the week, and I guess last week I was talking about how I've been working on this mining grind. Originally, I was going to get 85 so I can mine Runite for this Master Clue. Last week I decided I'm just going to get 82 and boost because goddamn is mining a brutal skill to train. But I don't know if I talked about it. I don't even know if I had it unlocked last recording, but I know we have touched on how mining isn't as AFKable as some of the other skills like fishing or woodcutting. And they try to kind of make it a little bit more AFKable by bringing in motherlode mining. But even still, motherlode mining, it's still not as AFKable because you just can't get as many, pay dirt? That's what they call it. You can't even get any of the ores, quote, from the mining sections. Whereas you have something like fishing where you could fish sharks and you could easily be stuck fishing from the same spot for a couple of minutes. Mm-hmm. And same with when you're woodcutting with magic trees. And now they've also introduced, the redwood logs? Or the redwood tree? Yeah, so mining can be a bit brutal. It's also a very slow experience, but the fact that it's not as AFKable as the other two makes it a little bit more rough because you can't just you can, but it's not as easy just to load up RuneScape, start doing some motherlode mining while you're playing another game on the side, name your game, right? You kind of have to play a game that's a game that really works well as a side game to RuneScape, or a game that works really well where RuneScape can be your side game. Because there's some games it's really hard to play Call of Duty or League of Legends is one that I was trying to do, which is terrible for that type of stuff. Because there's a lot of times where you're just stuck focusing for a couple minutes where you can't even, shift click to get off the screen and do something on the other one. So something like woodcutting, if I'm playing League of Legends, let's use that example, I could easily click on the magic tree, play League of Legends, and I could easily hit the 5-minute logout timer while I'm still cutting the same tree. Whereas with mining, you click it, and then within 30 seconds, you've mined that little piece of ore. Sometimes it's one, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's 10 seconds, and you have to click on another one.
Yeah.
So playing a game like League of Legends, you're constantly stuck just idling and not doing too much. So it does make it a bit more rough. But I was able to unlock the upper area, the upper level, which costs 100 gold nuggets.
Yep.
And I believe you need 72 mining for that.
Yep.
And really what that does is it brings you pretty damn close to the hopper where you deposit that pay dirt. So it's kind of nice to have it there because you can do a few clicks and then it's not like with the other sections where you're going to have parts where you need to run to the hopper. So it does help with making it a bit more AFKable. But another part of it that does help a lot is you can pay 200 gold nuggets to get a bigger hopper deposit. You can deposit more ores into the hopper. Normally it's like 80 or like something like it's like between like 60 and 80, I believe, pay dirt you can deposit into the hopper, which is a couple loads. But with the 200 gold nugget upgrade, you can put in, I think it's 186. So it's not bad. So it makes it kind of easier to do it when you're AFKing. You can just click, get a full load, click on the hopper, jump back in. And then what I would do is when I would fill up the sack at the end that has all your ores in it, I just grab my coal bag, and it makes it so when you're grabbing all the ores from it, there's a few times you can bring in like 2 inventories worth of ores because the coal bag can store like 28 coal. So it makes it pretty easy. So anyways, I found that was a lot easier once I had those 2 unlocked. Still not as good as woodcutting and fishing, but it does help a bit. So if you're looking to do this mining grind and get an actual high mining level, it might be good to unlock that sooner than later, because those 2 were the last things I unlocked. But at the same time, when I was grinding my gold nuggets for something else, like I think it was the gem bag and the coal bag beforehand, to have to get 300 gold nuggets before you start saving up for those 2 bags, it takes a long time. Gold nuggets is kind of a painful grind.
Yeah, it's pretty slow getting them.
Yeah, so kind of make your choice. Like if you get the upper level and then the bigger hopper upgrade, costs you 300 gold, like I mentioned, it will work out in the long run, but it'll still take you a lot longer to get that gem bag right away. Let's say you're just doing the motherlode mining for the gem bag for Slayer, because that thing's pretty useful to bring with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it will take a while. So anyways, did that, and yeah, I got my 82 mining. I got about 5 mil worth of ores from going from level 74 all the way up to 82.
Nice.
With the gold nuggets, I bought like I said, the 2 upper level and the bigger hopper. But and then with the rest of the gold nuggets, I spent, I think it's 40 of them on like a gem bag, which gives you an assortment of gems. I think it's like 10 or something like that. So that kind of helps too. But yeah, the end result was about 5 mil. So that's, I mean, it's nice to have it, seeing how I was just going for the levels, but not good money. If I spent that time doing Slayer or Vorkath or something like that, I'd be walking away with a lot more money. Yeah, even blast mining.
You make a lot more, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it was, nope, just did the motherlode mining. Anyways, after that, completed the master clue. And, well, not completed the master clue, but completed that step. And immediately after that step, I got hit with burn a redwood log.
Nice.
Yeah, you need 90 fire making for that. And I already had 85, probably from a clue scroll before. But that Wintertodt, well, not just Wintertodt, but fire making in general, so much faster than mining is.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I got that in a couple days from 85 to 90.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fucking sweet.
Yeah, fire making's my lowest skill right now.
What? It's so fast to level up. I was getting like 250k experience an hour, and I was still kind of AFKing a bit because I'd be doing other shit on the side.
Wintertodt?
Yeah, Wintertodt.
Yeah. I don't know. I just find it's pretty much a waste of time.
I mean,
like, unless you need it for a master clue, that makes sense. But like, I'm not gonna fire make just for the sake of it. Like, mine's only like 67 right now. It's just like, okay, yeah, I could just do a bunch of Wintertodt for like, you know, a couple days and like get up to like 80 or 90. But what's the point, you know? I don't really want to get in those 2K worlds that bad.
True, yeah, I feel you. But luckily you do make some money off of it. Like, sometimes it's depending on what your other skills are. So if you have a higher mining and a higher wood cutting and higher farming, you'll be getting better rewards from it. But there's a few times that open up the crate and I'd get 3 snapdragon seeds and what was it? I think I got 4 snapdragon seeds and then a U seed or 2 U seeds. Like, it equals about 200k or maybe even more. And that, you know, that's in 5 minutes worth of Wintertodt.
Yeah.
So you can get lucky and get some nice crates. But yeah, Wintertodt was it was an update that came out probably a year and a half ago, give or take, and yeah, it came into TzHaar and was a new way you could train fire making, because the problem with fire making beforehand, it was basically a skill you were literally burning money. You just burnt logs, and it was fast to train, kind of boring and kind of pointless. But with Wintertodt, it gave you a reason to do it. There's a lot of Iron Man and hardcore Iron Man that do it. They do it right away because you can take damage from it. It's a dangerous minigame. I don't even know if it's considered a minigame, but it's like a skilling boss sort of.
Yeah.
And it's percentage based. So if you do it at like, you were doing on your hardcore Iron Man for a while, weren't you?
Yeah, I've done a little bit of, I've done more Wintertodt on my hardcore Iron Man that I never play than my main.
Yeah, it's funny.
My hardcore Iron Man's 83 fire making, so it's a lot higher than my main.
Yeah, which is in the 60s.
I made this hardcore Iron Man when Wintertodt came out, and honestly, I'm probably gonna change the name and just make a new account, because I did it to kind of try out Wintertodt and see how profitable it would be for an Iron Man. So Wintertodt is the damage is based off of that you take in the room is based off of how much warm clothing you're wearing, what your fire making level is, and your HP level. So warm clothes, obviously, because you're wearing warm clothes, you take less damage. Your fire making, you take less damage. The lit braziers too, but if you're in the general Wintertodt, that world, they'll all be lit. So,
oh, true.
Yeah, so it's not a big deal. But then HP is obviously the biggest factor, and it's kind of one of the biggest complaints within the community, because if I were to do it on my main, I guess I'd bring wine, so it's not a big deal, but people bring wine or brews or something, right, to efficiently do Wintertodt, because I get hit 12s and stuff. I get hit pretty hard.
Mm-hmm.
And on my Iron Man, his HP was 17. Honestly, I don't even know how I got it to 18. Just looking at it now, I just have enough experience to go to 18. But I kept it for the 83 levels at 17, because that is the threshold where you get hit 2s. So you go and you thieve a bunch of cakes in Courant, because there's a cake stall with no guard. Pro tip. Easy thieving. So you go steal a bunch of cakes from there, you take 3 bites, they heal you 3 each. It makes it more AFKable and safer if you have 17 HP as a hardcore Iron Man, as opposed to 10. The closest call I had was oh fuck, I'm at 8 HP. You know what I mean? When I'm AFKing on it. But yeah. I stopped at some point and just did a bunch of fishing, because that's when I kind of realized having other higher skill stats make Wintertodt way more better, I guess.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, okay, so I have I don't know what my kill count is, but it's not that high. It's 80 or something, maybe 100 Wintertodt kills on this guy. I have 3 pieces and a torch, but a lot of things is the fish. I have 800 trout. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which it's gonna be completely trash. I have 23 Tarrowman seeds because I have 2 farming. I have 10 willows, which is nice. That's a benefit. Yeah. But I have things 73 Tarrowmans. I have 8 Renars. You know what I mean? 30 sharks. I have a lot of the lower tier materials.
Yeah.
Lots of maple logs. So I do want to test out making an Iron Man and skilling to a bunch of really high stats, and then doing Wintertodt to 99.
Yeah.
Just keep him as a skiller, and just to kind of see how that, pans out, I guess. But honestly, if I'm ever to do fire making on my main, I'd probably just burn logs or something, because it's a lot faster.
Yeah. Sorry. But with Wintertodt, I find it more fun. It's more interactive. There's a chest that you can kind of open up at the end of each round, and you kind of it's kind of more exciting.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's true.
To each their own, because the burning the logs is faster experience. That's why Wintertodt works out. You don't see as many people complaining about it.
Mm-hmm. Little more AFK, more fun. Well, not AFK, but click intensive.
Yeah,
you kind of do have to pay attention because you take periodic damage, which interrupts your skilling.
Mm-hmm.
And plus you can make some money too, and decent resources.
Yeah, and there's also a pet you can get.
Yep, cool cosmetics, all that stuff.
Yeah, and going back to the Iron Man, the reason you see a lot of low-level Iron Man doing it as well is because, as Deegan was mentioning, the rewards you can get, like the trout and stuff like that, they're really good to have at a low-level Iron Man. You know what I mean? You got starter food, you get these seeds that you can start planting and training herblore. It gives you all of this resources you can start leveling your skills with. For non-Iron Men, if you have a higher skills, you're just making raw money for the most part. Like you sell it, you make decent cash from that. Mm-hmm. But Iron Man are looking for the Harlander seeds aren't that useful for a normal account. But for an Iron Man, it's great because training herblore is a pain in the ass. So now you're able to, farm these little herbs and energy you know what I mean? Just whatever it is, they're useful at a lower level for an Iron Man, more so than a normal account.
Yep. I should mention I have 178k on this account.
Ooh.
And I haven't done the stronghold or anything like that. So you do get some good starting cash in general.
Yep.
So that's also a big factor. I have a rune pickaxe on this guy and I have no idea why. I bought one at some point. I'm just staring at his bank right now. I have no idea why the hell I have a rune pickaxe. I guess I went and bought one at some point.
Yeah, that's weird.
But yeah. Anyways, sorry to kind of derail you there. What else did you do this week?
No, that's I trained that. Got 90 fire making. Yeah, I made some fair cash from that, but nothing too nice. I still need to get all the uniques, but anyways, not important. So went and did the master clue scroll, and the big reward we got was like 600k.
Wow. Wow. Thank God you did the master clue, eh?
Yeah, it was good. So I think you average out. I was trying to see if I could find a list of the average GP amount each clue scroll was worth. Oh, right here, sorry. So the average of clue scrolls, I'm just pulling off this from the RS Buddy website, which doesn't seem too right. Okay, so this is factoring in all the rewards and then just averaging how rare it is to get them or something like that. Or I think it's taken what everybody gets from OS Buddy and factoring that in. All right, so take this with a grain of salt. Yeah, so I was hoping I could find something that was you're most likely going to get this much GP. So it says easy average is about 32k, even though I feel like it should be 15k, but this is I don't know, what would you say? 10? I'd say 10k almost.
Well, you have to keep in mind that the numbers are skewed a bit because it's the big unique items that you get from the clues that'll get factored in and that'll boost up heavily.
Yeah. So I would say though, if you're gonna do an easy clue scroll, chances are you're gonna get something worth under 10k. So medium, the OS Buddy is saying 144k. I feel like you're gonna be looking at something around 20k.
Yeah, I don't do clues, so.
Oh, true. So hard clue scrolls, OS Buddy is saying about the same amount. It's actually saying 144k, but 0.37, so 370 GP, which is less than the mediums. But anyways, with a hard clue scroll, you're looking at probably something between 50 and 60k. 50 and 80k, around that range, if I were to guess.
Yeah. The reason why mediums and hards are saying they're the same is because people farm mediums for the ranger boots.
Yeah, exactly.
You can buy or harvest eclectic imps and do medium clues, and yeah.
Yeah, and those are worth, what's ranger boots at?
20, probably 22, 23 mil?
Close, 34 mil.
Really? It's at 34 mil now?
Apparently.
Dude, I'm happy about my Pegasians at 23 mil. God damn.
Yeah, they're
You have the Dragon Hunter crossbow buff to blame for that.
No kidding. So that's a bit pricey. And then with hard clue scrolls, really the big drops. You can get the third age, but those are so rare that good luck. Half the time you're just getting rune trim pieces, which aren't worth basically anything anymore. So that's why they're about average out to about the same. Yeah, but anyways, with a hard clue scroll, expect between 50 and 80k. Again, this is me just trying to guess about how many I've done. It's been a while. Elite clue scrolls, this is saying here about 377k. That's the average. I think you should be expecting between like 150k and 250k. And then a master clue scroll is about, OS Buddy's saying 457,000 on average. And maybe I'm getting this wrong with the elite clue scroll, but the master clue, I would almost want to say like expect to be getting something around 300k, maybe 400k, if I were to guess. So with easy, you're getting, what is it, bronze? No, sorry, with easy, you're getting just real trash gear. You're getting like studded leather and stuff like that. Willow longbows. Mediums, you're getting adamant gear. And U bows and stuff like that. I'm just saying adamant and U bows. There's a bunch you can get, but you almost always get a random piece of melee armor and a bow. And with mediums, you're getting adamant and U. With hards, it's rune and magic short bow. Whereas elite clue scroll, it's also rune and you get some dragon weapons, but you usually get a couple rune pieces. And the master clue, you're getting probably like more dragon weapons and shit like that. So I'm having trouble finding useful websites or anything like that can give good estimates on things. But anyways, let's move on. That's all I got. Now I'm back to the Vedian grind. Gonna finish off my Slayer. And I've almost lost sight that I've been working towards 99 attack. I'm at 98 still because I've been doing all this other bullshit instead. So, yeah, doing some Vedian, because I got to finish that task up and get back to leveling up training my attack combat. Training my attack skill. Get that to 99 and we're good to go. Besides that, not really doing a whole lot else. Like I said, I've been kind of tied up with the stupid master clue, but, I do enjoy them, but you get stuck in these stupid-ass grinds.
Yeah.
All right, but, I think we can move on to the news. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's time.
Oh, it's time.
All right, we got quite a bit to talk about.
Nice, that's always good to hear.
So first off, I guess I'll mention we were like wondering what they wanted out of the satisfaction survey, or you give a thumbs up or thumbs down.
Yep,
because that has come out this week.
Yeah, apparently a lot of other people were wondering as well. So
yeah,
here we go.
There's a lot of questions, and so they decided to answer some of them. So first question is: will this replace current methods of monitoring player satisfaction feedback? Answer is yep. No. It won't. It's just another tool, and they make the point that the average player isn't, going on Reddit or either of the subreddits
or Twitter.
They're not going on Twitter. They're not asking or talking to them on Twitch when they have their live streams and whatnot. So it's another way for them to just gain information on that.
Yeah, here's the problem, is a lot of these different communities fall into this quote-unquote hive mind, where like you'll see all these popular suggestions on Reddit, or you'll see this like opinion being like, this is shit, keep it out, and they just seem to pop up to the top of the front page of that subreddit. Deegan's mentioned it before, where you'll start reading into this and you find yourself agreeing with whoever makes a compelling argument, but I know I found myself reading one where you're like, yeah, I agree with that. That is shit. And then you read the next one, you're like, actually, he's got a point there. He's kind of wrong. And a good example of this is the superior anti-fire potions, where like I thought they were extremely overpowered and that they shouldn't belong in this game, and a lot of other people believe that too. But then I saw a few people later on bring up why it's not as overpowered as I thought. They're still extremely strong, but they did make points where I'm like, I guess like it is strong, but not as game-breaking and overpowered as I had thought. And which is why you see a lot of times these problems, pop up. We talk about it. And then after that week or that episode, months go by and you never hear of that issue again.
Yep. So the next one is, why is it only a thumbs up or thumbs down with no other information? And it's pretty much just to keep it easy for them. Paraphrasing for them, obviously, because they're not going to say that. But they have this, answers one of the questions we had, is that they know how long you've done certain things. So if I do 4 hours of raiding and I give a thumbs up, do 5 minutes of mining and log off and do a thumbs down, they're going to know, when Deegan did raiding, he liked it and played a lot longer, and he mined for 5 minutes and said this game was shit and logged off for a day.
Yeah. And as we mentioned before, it's probably going to be like a bot that's kind of curating, putting all of these into categories or making its own graph. You're probably not going to have some intern going through each one, be like, all right, click on Deegan. He gave it thumbs down this time. He gave it thumbs up for this. Let me just put this in a little Google spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And if you could write a text, it would just be overwhelming. No one would be able to have the time to read all that.
Yeah. Which goes to the next question is, why is there no text field? And pretty much what we just said. Keep it short and simple. Next question is, what will you use it for? And at the moment, they just want to see how happy you are. And it's just a simple way to gather information. In the future, it is possible that they'll tie in the thumbs up or thumbs down with certain pieces of content. Also with individual game updates. And last question is, will you share the information with us? And they expect to. They want to in the future.
Yeah,
they'll probably use it for certain reasons of certain updates. They'll probably reference the thumbs up, thumbs down ratio.
They could use it to argue against, let's say on the subreddit one day, someone might say, nobody likes the Rev Caves, it fucking sucks. It's nobody likes to do it, nobody likes to PK there. They might be able to use the argument our data shows 80% of the people give it a thumbs up when they've done exclusively the raids for that gaming session, right?
Yep.
And they do these streams where they pull up a bunch of data and they show you what the community thinks and what the community likes to do about certain things. I know I've seen a bunch of ones in the past, so they could have a stream just going through this type of shit.
Yeah, that is it for the satisfaction surveys, though.
Yep.
And we shall move on to the dev blog, Theater of Blood.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
I feel, okay, I'm a little torn. I'll just mention, I'll go back to why I feel a little bit torn about this raid now, but we'll start. Theater of Blood, it is the new raid that we have talked about that will be coming out in the
future.
Yeah, in the future. Yeah, it is set in the east of the Mire Ditch. If you look at any of the artwork, it does look super cool. One of the bosses they showed, his name is Zarpus, and he looks kind of cool. I mean, it's kind of lame they showed us a half-rendered thing of it, but he looks pretty cool. The queen, the fat queen chick, Ursula 2.0, I watched them do the art stream on that, and that looks really cool.
Oh, good. I missed that one.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet. Mod Ghost was just doing some artwork, and mods would come in for 30 minutes to an hour and talk. So I watched Ash and Wolf come in and chat to with everybody while he was doing the art.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a shame though, because only I say only, but only 1,000 people tuned in.
That's the problem. Again, when we were talking about how not a lot of how these hive minds kind of pop up, Twitch is another one. I don't always have time to either watch Twitch or if I do want to watch Twitch, I like to watch it live. A lot of the times I miss it. For instance, the Q&A each week, I usually have to go back and watch it after it's done. And they're constantly putting surveys out there being like, do you want to have summoning come into the game? And there's only a couple, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people. I don't know how many there are, but there's that many people who are voting throughout the survey, and it's kind of just it's not an accurate number. Well, it looks like we're going to have to think about bringing summoning in because 90% of people wanted it when that's such a small percentage of the player base in the game.
Yeah.
So it makes sense why not many people can catch it. Yeah, like I said, yeah, exactly. So it is a shame too, though, because it is pretty cool. You get to see them actually work on it. Sometimes that stuff's pretty neat to see, but they're long, aren't they?
They can be long. I never tune in for all of it. It's something I'm dicking around on RS or whatever, and I just open up the art stream and just kind of like listened and watched a bit as I was just doing whatever.
Yeah, there's a few times I go check out the videos on the Twitch channel, and it's just like 5-hour stream of creating this boss. I'm like, wow, that's so you're just streaming your workday at that point.
Yeah. There are mods that come in and chat with the chat though.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they'll all come in and talk. It is really interesting watching.
It's not just gonna be him getting up and going to take a piss for 5 minutes or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just nothing going on.
You just hear like office chatter in the back. Somebody's got a case of the Mondays. That type of shit. Well, I guess like, bloody hell, mate, we got a bloody case of the Mondays, mate. It's my botched British impression of the month. Anyways, it is really interesting watching him use the in-house program. They have like their own art program they use to make this. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Microsoft Paint.
Yeah, pretty much. A lot more line tools than we'd expect, Yeah. I don't know what. Oh yeah, I was just saying that visually it looks pretty cool. The bosses look kind of cool, and they do have lore tied to the bosses and whatnot.
Oh, definitely.
I expect it to be kind of how they did raids, where they drop tomes, or you can find books throughout the raid and find it. Anyways, you might be asking, what is this raid, Deegan? You haven't explained it enough in the past. It is more of a typical raid. It's like your more of a traditional raid from other MMOs where you'll walk in. So I'll start off by saying it's geared for 3 to 5 people.
Yep.
And you go in and you fight, I believe it's 8 different bosses. There's no skilling involved. You go in with your inventory, and what happens is when you die, you will be ported out of the room so you can watch, but you can't participate. And if everybody dies, you get like a full wipe. Everyone on your team dies. That is considered an unsafe death. And the raid's over, I believe. So the raid will be failed, and you must restart from the beginning. If you fail a raid, it's not considered safe. So if you die, but your buddies, clutch it and carry you through that fight, you'll be okay. But if everyone dies, it's a failed raid, and any lost items will go into a gravestone system, like that of Torfin's with Vorkath. Mm-hmm. There'll be a gold fee to retrieve them. While a single death during the challenge room doesn't end the raid, it'll still be considered a unsafe death. It says in bold, any death within the theater of blood will cause a hardcore Iron Man to lose their status.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you had mentioned just before that the whole team had to wipe for it to be considered an unsafe death, but no, actually, you die once as a hardcore Iron Man, boom, you lose your status. So
yeah,
which is different from the Chambers of Xeric, where you can die as many times as you want. You won't lose your status there.
But it says any death within the theater of blood will cause a hardcore Iron Man to lose their status. So if you're a hardcore Iron Man, and you die, that's it. Your status is kaput.
So basically, you need a main account to be practicing this shit on.
Yeah. The number of deaths reduces the player's chance of obtaining a unique reward, and it'll only be awarded after killing the final boss. All other bosses in the raid will offer a small reward to compensate you for your time, but will have no chances of uniques.
And you probably can get some resources to fill up your inventory as well.
Yeah, food. They did mention in the past that they will drop food. They'll probably drop blood, which we'll talk about what blood is in a bit. Well, we know what blood is, but you know what I mean. A new resource called blood. Yeah, so the poll question for this is, should we add the raid to the game? It'll expand the Mire Ditch region. I should mention that there will be a boat in Port Phasmatis that you can pay a small fee every time you want to go to the raid, but you can pay the boat and it'll take you there, so you don't have to walk all the way to the east of Mire Ditch.
Mm-hmm.
That brings us to our next point, or our next pulled update content thingy is A Taste of Hope, which is a new quest. It's
Cool.
a new quest based in the Mire Ditch area, and it'll be a new experience level quest available to players who have completed Darkness of Hallowvale. And if you manage to complete it, you'll get a quest point, a tome of experience that grants 2.5k experience in any 3 skills 35 or above. So rune crafting.
3 times.
Yeah. A new unlimited teleport that takes you directly to the Theater of Blood. So that's enough to even go do that right there for that teleport. And you'll also get a new weapon for killing vampires.
Cool.
I'm going to expect this weapon to be really good in the raids, though, for maybe a boss or two.
That's a tricky one. It might, it's hard to say, right? Because they did say that this quest, you won't need to do it in order to do the raid. You can do it without ever having done this quest. But it's hard to say if this is going to give you... you benefit already from getting the teleport, but with this new weapon, so that's a tough one. But yeah. Before we continue on, should we talk about the lore for this Theater of Blood? Because they gave us a little taste of it.
If you want to, yeah.
All right, I'll just quickly run through it. So they have written here, towards the east of Gielinor, located in the Sanguistai region, is Ver-Sinhaza. Once the home of Queen Eferite, it is now ruled over by Verzik Vitur, head of the Vitur family, one of the few true-born vampires on Gielinor. For a millennia, Lady Verzik has commanded an army of vampires whom she has not only used to do her biddings, but also provides her with on-demand entertainment. It didn't take long before this became tiresome, and so she instructed her followers to create a gauntlet filled with some of the strongest warriors, creations, creatures, and puzzles. This is what we call today the Theater of Blood. When vampires still lived on their homeworld of Vampirium, they were near enough the apex predator. However, there was one species that even the vampires feared, the Urasa. These large flying predators are visually impaired. However, that does not make them any less dangerous, as they have heightened sense of smell and sound. Their ability to attack in unpredictable ways makes them a deadly foe to the vampires, for it renders their immunities useless. While the Urasa are already a deadly foe, there is none more dangerous than their king, Ixarpus. Zarpus? When the vampires were united under the 8 tribes, they hunted down and defeated most of the Urasa, driving them to near extinction. They were unable to defeat Zarpus, with him surviving their hunts until they finally left Vampirium many years later. It is unknown how they managed it, but eventually the vampires brought Zarpus to Gielinor. They trapped him in the theater. There, he now fights any who enters, desperate to escape and enact vengeance upon the vampires. The citizens of Mire Ditch often go to the theater to fight against the various experiments and abominations contained within, providing entertainment for the vampires. To encourage them to do this, the vampires promise them freedom if they survive. With the aid of the Myrique, it is down to you to complete all its challenges and emerge as the victor. So yeah, there's a little bit of lore there. I do want to mention, though, the raid does say that there is going to be some sort of puzzle. It's hard to say if this is going to be like a combat-oriented puzzle. Like we've talked before about, you got to maybe have some guy holding this giant key, and he's going to be unable to attack or run, and you got to bring it somewhere while other people are protecting him. That might be considered the puzzle.
Yeah.
All right, and quickly, I'll give the quick lore the quick taste of lore for the quest, A Taste of Hope. For many years, the Myrique have fought back against the reigns of the Drakens. To many, they act as a glimmer of hope in the otherwise miserable existence. In recent times, the Myrique have been beset by disaster, with numerous members meeting a gruesome end at the hands of Van Stromklaws, the brutal henchmen of the Drakens. However, while the Myrique may be in their darkest hour, hope still remains, thanks to a recent discovery in the laboratories deep beneath the Mire Ditch. The Myrique may have finally found a way to take the fight to the vampires. They will do just that in the latest installment of the Myrique questline, A Taste of Hope.
So yeah, that's pretty much it for the general stuff. Now we'll get into the raid rewards, and I think I figured out why a lot of items don't pass in the polls.
Is it because they're PvP items?
No, not that. It's Jagex, and they did this before, where we'll talk about the vials of blood and the new potions. So keep in mind, when they first teased about this, they said that they're gonna be really strong, but when you take a sip of it, it'll hurt you.
Okay.
And like they said about 10 HP, whenever you took a sip from the potion, but the potions would be really good. And now they're going back on that. They say it's not good if they were to lower your HP by 10 because they're not strong as they expected, not as strong as they expected. So keep this in mind. None of these potions will actually hurt your HP. Some of them are really good. Some of them are okay. But yeah, so the first one is the Bastion potion.
Let me just quickly step in and say the lore tied to this one. I hope you guys enjoy the lore for this, because there's a little bit for each one. Anyways, the vampires have long believed that there is a great power in blood. A belief that has only increased with the recent experiments with, Haemalchemy.
Haemalchemy, yeah.
Haemalchemy, okay. These vials contain modified blood that enhances the power of potions and can be used to charge new weapons found from within the theater of blood. All right, your turn.
Yeah, so the first potion is the Bastion potion. It's a potion that boosts range and defense by the same amounts. So you use a ranging potion, a super defense potion, and sorry. It raises it by the same amount as a ranging potion and a super defense. So you mix the potion, you need 80 herb lore, and you need a vial of blood, a cadentine, and a wine of Zamarok. 155 herb lore experience. That's just like a new version of a range potion that gets your defense up a bit as well.
Yeah, it's the range potion variant of the super combat potion, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this is pulled if it should be added into the game. The next one is the Battle Mage potion. So it's the same thing. It's mage and defense with the same amounts that, using a magic potion and super defense. You need a vial of blood, a cadentine, and a potato cactus. 80 herb lore, 105 experience granted per potion. This is pulled.
What do you think about those two right there? Yay or nay?
I think they won't be used at all.
No, I think they're good for like PKing and stuff. Or, yeah, something like that. Or maybe like, if you're doing
maybe
a boss.
The Bastion, magic potions in general are super weak.
Yeah, they're very... Yeah, I do bring some when I do like the Cave Kraken, because I don't have, 15, 20 mil for the heart.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't even bother bringing it. It boosts, the boost is so minor that, like, I rarely use it unless it's, like, I need that extra level for something, right? If I'm using, Fire Surge, then I'll bring it. But in general, like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't use one. Like, the Bastion I could see being used for PKing, Battle Mage, unless you're, like, some pure that doesn't have, or you're someone who doesn't have the magic level for something, and you're, yeah, whatever. Battle Mage, I won't see as much use.
But you're okay with these coming into the game?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be kind of stupid to not bring them in. They're not the best. Not really doing anything in the game. They're interesting,
Yeah. We already have the super combat, so...
Maybe the Battle Mage potion would be a bit better to bring to, like, Kraken, because now you're also getting defense. But, who knows? But yeah, the next one is the Totality potion. So it's a potion that boosts attack, strength, defense, range, and magic. Uses the same amounts by using a super combat potion and a range potion and a magic potion. So it's just like using all of those potions, using a super combat, range, and a mage potion at once.
Yep.
You need 96 herb lore to make it, and the ingredients you'll need is a super combat potion, a range and mage potion, a vial of blood, and a torso. Completing the full potion grants 180 experience. Aren't you pissed you have all those unfinished torso potions now?
No, I don't have the torso.
You don't have them in a potion?
No, it's like toad flax or something.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, what do you think about this potion?
It is really strong.
It's really strong, I agree. I'm just trying to... It is good, but really it just kind of saves you inventory from having the other ones. I was like... For my first knee-jerk reaction was like, whoa, nope, too much, get this out. But then I'm like thinking about it, like, it'll be really expensive. It'll be great for tri-bird PKing. But how many situations are you using all 3 attack styles for things
raids.
Besides PKing? Yeah, raids. Again,
you'll bring this into a raid, like, that saves... Like, the only thing is that it's kind of weird to think at one point... I thought it was silly, and a lot of people thought it was silly that a super combat potion was coming in, because now attack, strength, and defense, like, you don't actually use them. You don't really use the super defensives. You don't really bring those when you're doing Slayer and shit. But it turned 3 potions into 1, and now this turns, like, 5 potions into 1.
You think it's too much?
I mean... At the end of the day, all it does is it saves me 1 inventory slot for, like, raids, which is actually, like, for Xerix, that's quite a bit. Be able to bring another item or something. Yeah, I don't know. It depends on how much Vial of Bloods are being dropped. Like, they don't specify, hey, you kill a guy, you're getting... What if you got 10 Vials of Blood per drop on a boss, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
If it's, like... If a Vial of Blood is as expensive as, like, a Torsil or a Snapdragon or something, I'll be more along the line, like, if it's, you know, the rarity or, like, the price, just, yeah, if it's, like, you know, in line with that, I'll be more okay, but if it's something like Eyes of Newts, where you can now buy packs of 10, like, then you're like, okay, why is this even a fucking thing? Like, so that is a big factor. Super strong, though. That is really good.
Yeah, it's decent.
Saves a lot of inventory space.
Yeah, like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. It will be expensive to have, and it will help a lot for, like, PvP and stuff like that, where you can just sip 1 potion, and you'll save inventories, spaces. Same with raids. But it, 96 Herblore to make it. You look at the super combat potion, it's like, what, 10k?
Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, so this thing is just going to be... You know what I mean? Like, I think we can almost assume 20k, if we were to guess. Personally, I don't really see a big problem with it.
Yeah, the next one is the Vigor Potion. So it's a potion that restores prayer points, 7 plus 25% of your level, as well as applying a weak stamina potion that lasts for 1 minute instead of 2. You need 88 Herblore, and you'll need a Vial of Blood, the Amylase Crystals, and a Renar. You get 110 experience for using it. Or not using it, making it, sorry.
Again, I don't see a problem with this one.
So this is pretty much a prayer potion plus a stamina, which...
With it a little bit less time on the stamina as the regular one. But I'm trying to think of how often would I need something like this? Maybe in the wilderness?
Bosses like Sire... If you don't use the home teleport method or the house tab method.
Yeah, that's fair.
Really good for raids, especially like Olm specifically. Like amazing. Really, really strong. Sarah, disgustingly broken for Sarah. Disgustingly broken. Because when you're if you are like a high level PVMer and you're prey flicking Sarah, the biggest issues is... Well, I guess if you can pray flick perfectly, you won't lose any prayer, but generally when you're doing Sarah, the biggest issue is prayer and run energy. And it's not like, oh, I'm running out of the stamina, it's I bring staminas, but I'm also just running out of energy and prayer. Like if I were to do Sarah, those are my issues. I usually have to leave because I run out of prayer and energy. And you could just bring these instead of prayer potions.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but I think it's safe to say that these will be worth at least 17k, because a prayer potion 4 dose goes for 10k, and then the stamina goes for 7. So 17k per potion. That's a little pricey. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but because something's expensive doesn't make it, doesn't make it okay.
No, I know. We've talked about this before, especially with like weapons and stuff like that. Yeah, that's the hard. Like I'm looking at them, like it's saving inventory spaces, right? But then at what point are you crossing the line where you're like, you know what I mean? You're just your inventory space is essentially doubled.
I mean, if you're combining the Bastion potion, maybe a Vigor potion. I mean, you wouldn't just replace because you have to bring super restores. Like I'm using Sarah as a specific example.
Yeah,
but you would bring one or two. Like for Olm, I don't run the hand, but if you were to, you could just bring one of these and substitute out a stamina.
Yeah,
and that helps a lot. Like I said, like a lot of the times when you have to pray and run a lot, you're running out of run energy, not your stamina's going out of effect, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It does seem really strong, but maybe I'm like overthinking it. But I do see like it being really, really strong at Sarah and being really, really good at raids.
I think a good question to ask with this potion as well, because it says it gives you the prayer points as a normal prayer potion, as well as applying a weak stamina potion effect that lasts 1 minute instead of 2.
Yep.
Now, right now, when you drink a stamina potion, it gives you like 20 energy. Would this be doing that?
So they don't specify it, but they always end up changing things, and I feel like if it isn't, it's going to. If it is just an energy reduction, then I'll be like more okay with it.
Because that's the thing, you will still run out of energy at some point, right? Unless you're standing idle for long enough to regain it.
So the main thing is that if they didn't specify it, so we can assume that like that's not going to be a thing. But a lot of times they changed it last minute. They've changed a lot of things that we'll talk about in a bit last minute, and they just put it out there on us. And then it makes the community scratch their head, or like not the community, but makes people like me scratch their head and go, well, you didn't really promise that. That was like, and then it's weird. So like, even if it's not, maybe they imply it, the 20 energy.
Or 10 energy. Like it's hard to say, right?
Yeah. Still, I don't know. I think it's really strong.
I think it's decent, but not as strong. So I'm on the other spectrum where you're more towards a no, I'm more towards a yes, but we're somewhere in the middle. So let's move on to the next.
Next one is the Super Prayer Potion. So it restores 7 plus 25% of your prayer level, like a normal potion. Mm-hmm. And it has a renewal effect, so it restores 6 prayer over 30 seconds, 1 prayer point per 5 seconds. 91 Herblore to make it. You need a Violet Blood, Renar, Snapdragon, Snapegrass, and you get 120 experience for making one. So this is like, it's kind of cool. I'm not like against it. It's kind of a cool idea.
It's interesting. It is good. It's going to be expensive, but also there's still a lot of situations where you want your super restores because you bring Ceradomin brews as a food, right? Or as a way of healing, I should say.
Well, a lot of this I could see you use this potion to abuse redemption. That's the first thing I see.
Wow, that's a good idea.
Yeah, the next thing I see from this is amazing for Cerberus. You just bring one. And if you're at that awkward level of like,
wow, that's a good idea too.
Yeah, your prayer level's at that weird level where like you either have to take 3 sips or 2 in one hit. You could just
That's me.
Take a sip of this. You lose prayer on one. Like, I don't know. You could find some janky ways to use it.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that for the average player, this potion won't do shit. But for someone like Wooks or like high level PVMers that like boss all the time and can like one tick like crazy and like do Vespula with redemption, you know what I mean? Where they drink a prayer enhance and they just kill it. Like those are the people that like will really benefit from this potion. So the rich get richer is what I'm saying.
Now, do you think that's a bad thing? Do you think somebody who has this top tier skill, should they deserve to benefit at this rate?
Well, the main thing is like the only things I can think of like There's not really too much you could abuse with it, but maybe I'm not thinking enough about it.
Mm-hmm.
I just see like, hey, you can now do this weird janky thing where you spam redemption on this boss, like Arma now. You know what I mean? Like now you're going to just do redemption at this time on this, or I don't really know. If there's any bosses that consistently hit you for like a low amount.
Well, like the thermonuclear smoke devil.
Yeah.
That's one where people use the redemption because he hits fast, but he's always hitting 7s.
Mm-hmm.
So you're able to, you know what I mean, offset your food by using your prayer up.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to say. And then you get the argument of like, this causes Jagex to sometimes have to tweak bosses around these top tier players. But at the same time, they are the ones discovering these ways that you can abuse mechanics. So, you know, it's hard to say. It falls into the spot where, like, I don't know, they cause fixes to happen in the game sometimes that otherwise may not have been found.
Yep.
But Jagex has been pretty good about allowing them to still be able to benefit from their how well they are at the game, which you definitely should be, right?
Yep.
So I don't think there's any arguments there. Quick question though. So yeah, you're more okay with that one, you said?
Yeah.
Do you think all of these potions that they're pulling, do you think they deserve for you to take 10 damage when you drink them?
I'd be like more okay with like 3 or 5. Maybe make it total 10. So like 2 point. I guess you can't really round numbers in old school. But, you know, make it like 2 or 3 damage per sip.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. They came out with these potions and then went, no, they shouldn't hurt you. I mean, I do think 10 is quite a bit. Like taking 40 damage from a prayer potion is nuts. Specifically with the super
full one, yeah.
Yeah. The super prayer potion, you would have to like use redemption to kind of make your health back. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird that like maybe they tuned down the potions at one point because 10 was too much. I don't know. The thing is, I'm really iffy on saying these should be put in the game or not because they fucking change shit under our noses so often, and it like I'm pretty pissed about it.
Like what? You have any examples?
A lot of bosses, like the way Xerix was supposed to work was that bosses were supposed to drop shit. Like Muted Owls were supposed to drop dexterous scrolls and whatnot.
Oh yeah?
They changed all that. But there are a lot of things in this update, these proposed updates. I guess this isn't really an update, but these pulled items and stuff, they changed kind of last minute and they don't even mention it. Or maybe they do and I just didn't see it, but they didn't really talk about it as much as we'd like. Anyways, yeah, we'll move on. So those are the potions, and
yeah, no, before we move on, it is, again, I know we've talked about it before, but it really does boil down, and I think I'm going to bring this up again while we go through these, is like how willing they're going to tweak these until they actually fit well into the game. If these all release, they look at it and they go, they are pretty strong. Okay, we're going to do a fix where you are going to start taking damage. You know what I mean? From drinking these.
Yeah.
It's important to do in this game.
Yeah, we'll move on to the items now. So first one is the Infernal Defender.
Oh, I got some lore I can touch on here.
All right, do it up.
During the Second Age, infernal weaponry was common amongst the forces of the Empty Lord. These weapons, crafted in the liquid fires of Infernus, were some of the most powerful around. Today, infernal weapons are incredibly rare, the secrets behind their creation having long since been lost. Lady Verzik's Infernal Defender is one of the few to still remain and is a relic from her time in the service of the Empty Lord. Do you know who the Empty Lord is?
No idea.
I'm pretty sure it's Zeros. The god Zeros.
Oh.
Someone hasn't been brushing up on their lore. We can just move on. Yeah. Okay, let's tell us about the weapons. Let's get into the numbers here.
All right, so the Defender is an upgraded version of... Well, the Infernal Defender is the upgraded version of the Dragon Defender. You need 70 attack and defense to use it. It's pretty much... The stats of it are +2 on everything of a Dragon Defender, except for, like, its magic and range would be -2. So instead of, like, a -3 attack bonus, it's a -5. But everything else is +2 attack and defense wise. Melee strength is 8, defender 6, so it's minor buff with everything. Yeah, so you get the Infernal Hilt, and you combine that with an Infernal Cape and a Defender. Nah, I wish. No, it's just the Hilt and Defender. The Hilt is tradable, so once you combine the Defender, the Infernal Defender is now untradeable. You can dismantle the Defender to retrieve the Dragon Defender, but the Hilt is destroyed. Does this make sense?
Yep.
Think of it as a, Pegasian Crystal or something. I don't know.
Or I think a whip. You dismantle it. You don't get your whip back, but you get the tentacle.
Yeah.
Kraken tentacle. So, it's kind of interesting. It's interesting the way they're doing this because it's not like we need an item sync for some items, but the Dragon Defender is not one of them. If anything, it might be a pain in the ass because some people get stuck killing 700 of these fucking Cyclopses to get their Dragon Defender. God damn it.
Yeah.
But interesting, this is the route they chose to kind of upgrade it sort of deal.
I do like how if you're maging with a Defender, you're more punished now with an Infernal Defender. Because
that's right.
Say you're doing Olm or something, right? And you're just switching between mage and range and melee and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, you want to unequip your Defender and boots if you're using Primordials and stuff like that.
Yep.
For so you don't lose on the offensive bonuses, and this would punish you harder if you don't do that. So I like it. It's not the biggest upgrade, but it is definitely enough to be I'd be down to grind out some some of these raids or to buy it and upgrade my Defender. That'd be pretty nice.
Yeah, it's definitely something you'll want, but it's not too big of an upgrade where you're wow, you know what I mean? It's a nice upgrade. It's kind of like the Primordial boots, where it's a slight upgrade above the Dragon boots, which makes it, expensive to get, but at the same time, you're not going to be punished for not really having it. But it's something you'll definitely want when you're maxing.
Yeah, so that is pulled. The hilt.
Cool.
That's kind of cool. And the next one, I actually haven't really fiddled with this or really looked at it too much, but is the Judgment Prayer Scroll.
All right.
Do you want to do the lore of this?
Oh, I'll take this one. During the God Wars, Armadyl granted his followers great power so that they may defeat his enemies. Judgment was one of these many powers, one that has since been lost to history. However, when Armadyl left Gielinor after the God Wars, his abandoned fortress was raided by Lady Verzik's vampires. Within one of these fortresses, they found a scroll containing the hidden knowledge of Judgment. Your turn.
Yep. Judgment is a new overhead prayer, and you need 85 prayer to use it. So it's a tradable scroll, which can be obtained within the Theater of Blood. And the prayer boosts melee attack by 10%, lowers your defense by 50%, and 1/6 of any damage dealt is removed from their prayer.
Yep.
So the use of Judgment stacks with combat prayers such as Piety, but it's an overhead. So we have an offensive overhead prayer now.
See, I like that. I like the idea of having it being an overhead, so you got to choose between, let's say you're PKing with it. Do I smite someone, or do I put this on hit more damage and kind of smite myself?
Yep. Really nice for rushing. That's the only use I can see in PvP.
Yeah, that's kind of the issue. That's kind of the issue. But I have seen that their idea of this prayer was something where you're let's say you're PKing in Edgeville, and let's say you're having a smite fight in Edgeville, and the idea was to quickly switch to this to use your spec to maybe get off a really big hit and take them out, and then you switch back to your smite, or maybe you're tri-Bridding and you have your protection prayers on, quickly switch to this one while you go in for the KO, then you switch back. So that's their idea of it.
I should mention that it's melee attack, not strength, so it does make it more accurate, so the Granite Maul would get a nice little buff from this.
Mm-hmm.
Because the big thing is that Granite Maul is so, you can stack them over some 40s, or you're hitting zeros on someone with 2 HP.
Yeah. There's no mid-ground.
Yeah. So it's not strength, so there's not going to be any new max hits from this. So that's a big thing to keep in mind.
And the lowering of your defense doesn't allow someone else to get higher hits on you. It just allows their accuracy to be basically boosted by... it's not even 50%. It just makes your defense less by 50%. You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
It doesn't work out, so they're suddenly hitting 50% more often or 50% higher or whatever it is.
Yeah. It's 50% on your current bonuses. So...
Yeah. So, yeah, and it does kind of... Let's say you decide to rush with it. Like, it'll be great for, like, one-itemers, but at the same time, if you decide to anti-rush them, there's a chance they could really they could smite themselves out. Sometimes you see people who are rushing in, like, the top-tier gear because they're going to teleport as soon as they hit you anyways.
Yep.
So it's their way of bringing the best-in-slot gear, but luckily, with this, it gives you a chance to anti-PK, so it's kind of... I don't know. I would kind of like to see this one in action.
Yep.
Before I kind of give my... I like the idea of it.
Yep. It would be more beneficial for peers to be using this, obviously, than like someone in max gear and shit.
Yeah, they don't have defense anyways.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that is pulled. Next item, the Sanguinesti, the Gwen Stefani staff.
Gwen Stefani staff. I like it.
I don't even want to try and say it. I'm going to call it the Gwen Stefani staff.
Sanguinesti.
Yeah. Do you want to do the lore?
Sure. One of the more recent additions to Lady Verzik's collection, the Sanguinesti staff is a powerful weapon that was crafted by Lord Lowerneil Draken himself. The staff was given to Lady Verzik by Lord Lowerneil Draken as a reward for assisting him in their fights against the 7 priestly warriors.
Okay, when are we gonna get like Lord Eddie or something?
Yeah, no shit.
Stupid ass names.
But I don't think they probably just type them. No one ever says it in the office. Yeah. Probably like, hey, boss, does this look good to you? And they just hand him a piece of paper with the name on it. Like, yeah, that looks pretty, is a good fantasy name.
They open up Microsoft Word and they go, all right, spell check, auto, and it just makes a word for them. They just fucking hit random keys and they're set.
That's good. And you see it, they have a YouTube video where it's them pronouncing these words, and there's some words where like there's 3 different pronunciations.
Yeah. Yeah, so it is a new tradable magic weapon that requires 75 magic to wield. It is identical in terms of stats and damage to that of the Trident of the Swamp, but it has a 1 in 8 chance to heal you for 50% of the damage dealt when attacking an NPC. It is charged with blood runes, 4 runes per cast, so it's about 1k. Probably a little bit more depending on the day, but about roughly 1k per cast. The staff does not degrade.
See, when I had first read this, I kind of thought that you'd charge it with the blood runes, and then whatever spells you casted with it would give you the chance of healing. So let's say you decided to cast like Fire Wave or Fire Surge, just something else. But
Teleblock?
Yeah, Teleblock against an NPC.
Yeah.
Get some of that heals back. But anyways, they did release these into the tournament worlds, and it turns out that you just put the 4 blood runes into it, and then it shoots a spell on its own, similar to how the Trident of the Swamp works.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I feel about that one. I was kind of hoping you'd be able to cast your other spells with it, because suddenly it's starting to cost you a lot of runes, because you got the normal spells now. On top of that, you're casting the 4 blood runes to it.
Yeah, so if you bring this to Kraken, you don't need food.
Nope.
You can literally do as many kills as you want, as long as you have the ability to cast this. Dagonoth Kings is the same thing. You can AFK Prime in literally AFK Prime. Like, you don't die ever. It's really strong, but it's 1k per cast. So you're not making your money back. I filled around with it a bit. What I didn't do was try using the Toxic, get down to half health, and then swap to it. Just because getting the Kraken task and then you're like, oh, I'm doing a Kraken task on a tournament world. God damn, this is boring after 50 kills, right? It's really pricey right now. It is really good though. Like that heal. It's like Guthans, you know. It's Mage Guthans. It's really nice. It
is nice to have.
I should have busted this bad boy out at like Bandos or something with low magic.
Yeah,
that would have been a good idea just to see if I can do multiple kills per trip. I didn't though. I didn't really think of that. Probably isn't that good now that I'm saying it out loud. But it's really expensive to use. Really good. It's pretty much it.
It is important to note though that the Trident of the Swamps, it costs 535 GP per cast, so it's about half the amount as the Sanguinesti staff, and then you have the Trident of the Seas, which is it's not as strong, but it costs 367 GP per cast.
Yep. The main thing is you can use the swamp and like make money off of it. You know what I mean? You can use the Trident of the Swamp on Kraken. You're walking out with some money.
Oh yeah,
the
definitely.
Staff. I mean, of course you're gonna walk out with some money, but this is like a pretty big money sink in terms of like you're there for it's just 100% convenience because the heal is nice and allows you to do like more Kraken kills per hour or not having I can get 50 Kraken kills with a normal setup, probably more now that I have better gear and stuff. I haven't done Kraken in like a year pretty much, but I was getting like 50 a trip, and with this, you know, you're getting like, you know, infinite pretty much. But if you have like 150 tasks, right, you're only banking 3 or 200 times, you know what I mean? Like you're only banking 3 or 4 times per task.
Mm-hmm.
And with this, you're not. So, like, it doesn't really boost your kills per hour by a lot. It just makes life a lot easier, but it's a big money sink. So I do like this as an item. That being said, watch them make this cheaper to use, though.
Maybe, but it's also important to note, though, that the healing, while it is useful, that casting Blood Barrage will still heal you better than this thing would.
Yeah, but the main you use this on like Prime and like Kraken. Those are like the big uses I see. And you don't cast Blood Barrage at those bosses. Well, actually, that's a lie. You can Blood Barrage Prime when you're doing a trio. When you're not doing a trio, when you're killing all 3 of them, people do that.
I just wanted to mention this because some people might hear the fact that you can heal yourself. It is a 1 in 8 chance of it happening, whereas the Blood Barrage, it heals you by 25% of the damage, but it'll heal you every single time by 25%.
Yep.
And on top of that, it casts in a 3x3 square, so.
Yep. Yeah, so I do like this as an idea, as a weapon, but as this comes out, Blood Runes will go up even more in price, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's like, well, we're gonna make it 2 Blood Runes now, and then I'm like, oh, why did I say I like this? Because now I don't like it. But as of the current state, I do like it.
I agree.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll go to the Grassy Rapier. Grassy Rapier.
Sounds good to me.
All right, hit us with some lore.
All right, of all Vampirium tribes, none were more vicious than the Garazi. These vampires took pride in their combat abilities and would regularly bait their prey into battle so they could test their prowess. The rapier in Lady Verzik's vault was once wielded by the fearsome Garazi warlord. It was given to her by her father, who came to possess it after the warlord challenged him to battle, one that he did not survive to tell the tale. Hit us with some stats.
This is the chaotic rapier, pretty much. For everyone knows that, obviously, but it's a new tradable stab weapon that requires 75 attack to wield. It is not charged and does not degrade, and the attack speed of the rapier is the same as the abyssal tentacle, the same attack bonus, but it's stab instead of slash.
It's interesting.
So, this is my issue. So right now, this weapon is as good as a tentacle whip, but it's the stab version, right?
Yep.
Okay, so that being said, if this comes out, whip prices will go down.
Well, I mean,
They'll go down 100%.
think so?
Yep. The fact that this doesn't degrade, and they said it was going to be charged with blood runes when the first time they talked about this, and when everyone got behind it, or when I got behind it, I should not pull everyone with me, but when I got behind the idea of like, you know what, I'll let Chaotic Rapier 2.0 come out, because like if it's like a melee weapon that requires like maybe vials of blood and blood runes or something, or one or the other to like use, like a tentacle whip, like there will still be trade-offs where you're going to want to use one over the other. Right now, the whip, you use it for like bandos, right? Like if you're bringing the tentacle whip.
Yep.
Lot more bosses are weaker to stab than slash. So that's a big point. Even if it was literally you put a whip onto this thing, like the fact that it's now stab over slash makes it better than a whip.
Well,
with the
it
same stats.
Depends on the boss, right?
I'm being general though. I'm generalizing.
Yeah.
Most bosses are weak to stab or have a weaker stab defense than a slash because of the whip, right? Because the whip was
sure.
the like weapon they would make. Yeah. Anyways,
I mean, I get what you're saying. I don't think that whip prices will drop because whereas this is going to come out, it's probably going to be in the line of Twisted Bow. Like, it's going to be pretty fucking expensive.
It's not going to be worth like or not going to be worth it. Maybe on day one.
No, but I think it'll be worth 50 mil to 100 mil to maybe even up to 500 mil, depending on how rare it is to get this. It really depends on the drop chance, but I think it's going to be pretty damn expensive. You're not just going to see all these people running around with this new weapon now. Also, it's the same reason why you don't see many people training with the tentacle whip. It's very strong, but it's going to cost you a decent amount of money. People stick to the whip because it's cheaper.
Well,
and it's like the go-to.
You train attack and defense with a whip, and you use whatever you want and any other weapon for strength because you can't train strength with a whip. You can train strength with this weapon.
Yeah, exactly. So there is that too. And you also got to factor in that now you get an extra bonus of 2 hidden strength levels, right? Because when you're depending on what attack style you're using, you'll get 3 for accurate, 3 you get 3 hidden attack levels for training with attack experience, and you know what I mean, like 3 for strength and 3 for defense, then 1 through all of them for controlled. That being said, comparing this to Chaotic Rapier, I don't think is fair because I believe the big problem with the Chaotic Rapier is that it was also tied to a very strong special attack, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah, this has no special attack.
Yeah, that made that very strong in the wilderness. Whereas with this, people will still be bringing the tentacle whip instead of bringing this thing out. You know what I mean?
Well, so the main thing with the only reason why I made the joke about it being the Chaotic Rapier is that the rapier would now be the ideal weapon to get instead of a whip. So the main thing is like the only reason why I say tentacle or the whip will drop in price is that your average person isn't using the abyssal tentacle that much. It's the people with like staking addictions, right? So this will be the new weapon for staking. But so staking, people that are addicted to staking, people that like boss all the time, that generally have a bigger cash stack or a bigger bank value than like someone who just slays. Because if you're just slaying, you're not going to be using a tentacle whip if you're like an average person.
No.
Like that's no one's that. Okay. Since the tentacle whips have come out, and because, from the start of this podcast, I was like level 100 and now I'm like max melee and stuff, right?
Yeah.
This week, I burned through my first abyssal tentacle and I went through 5,000 charges this past month. Literally, so half of my whip got used in a month, or like maybe 2 months. And that's because now I'm bossing a lot more. I'm using it for like raids. I'm using it for bandos. Like I'm actually using the weapon daily, and your average person isn't using it. As opposed to like when we first started the podcast, I had one in my bank, but I didn't even, you know what I mean? I used half of it over the course of like a year and a bit. I used half of my whip, and then in a month I used the other half. And like I'll probably be ripping through it like once a month now. I'll be going through a new one. And so that's why the whip sync is a thing, because high-level players don't mind spending 2 mil for that extra bonus, because you're doing where you're getting over 3 mil an hour, or you're doing bandos with like a group of people and you can get infinite amount of kills per trip. Like, it's the trade-off is like, okay, yeah, 10,000 hits, there goes 2 mil, but it doesn't matter because I'm making 30, 40 mil with this whip. So like the trade-off is nothing.
Yeah.
And then so the rapier comes out, and now you don't need the whip. Like, you don't need whips because you can just get a rapier, and maybe you use one for a while, but eventually you'll get one, and that's one less person sinking whips. People that crank out multiple raids a day every single day go through a lot of whips. They'll have like 3 or 4 sitting in their bank just so they don't have to keep going back and doing it, right? And now with the rapier coming in, they can just sell their whips, and they're like, all right, once this abyssal's gone, like, I don't need to use an abyssal whip unless I'm doing bandos. But at that point, they're generally not doing bandos. If you're like, oh yeah, I'll just sell off my 4 whips and save up, maybe I already have enough for 500 mil. I don't think the rapier would ever be 500 mil. I could see it being at like 100 mil, maybe between 50 and 100 mil, maybe a bit more, actually, maybe like 150. The thing is it reduces what the sync actually is when it comes to the abyssal tentacle.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, like I said, the sync is coming from like the hardcore max players and not like your average Joe who's doing gargoyles all the time or something.
But that's a fair point, but at the same time, you could kind of argue that there is probably more player, like the item sync, and when I say an item sync, I mean somebody's buying it and they're holding on to it. There's more people buying it and holding on to it that are like the lower levels than there are max players who are burning through these tentacle whips. Because right now, the abyssal whip's at about 2 mil, and the more players that RuneScape gets, these people are still going to be buying these whips for the first time. It's constantly happening. Whereas there's probably a ton of players burning through it as well, but I think we underestimate how many new players are like finally getting to that 70 attack and able to buy their first whip. It's just got to be happening all the time.
But that stops and tapers off. Like the whole point of an item sync is that what happened, like when they originally added the abyssal whip, is that the game came out, people, weren't kids, they're smart, and they're like, hey, I am rushing Abbey Demons. They're like, people got on RuneScape on day 1, old school release, and they're like, okay, I'm rushing Abbey Demons. I'm going to be selling I'm going to just fucking get so many whips and sell them. I'm going to spend like a week just grinding for whips. And they did that. And then it got to the point where whips like crash super hard because people, if you're holding on to an item that's not really syncing it, you just have an item and you're holding on to it.
But in general, though, it kind of is an item sync in the sense that it's not just like people aren't just banking a bunch of these things or selling it, or you don't have to high alch it. It's just like the second somebody buys one and holds on to it forever, in general, that's one item sunk. You know what I mean? Because it's
I know what you're getting at. It's the main thing is that like there will always be that the hardcore fan base, the people that went and grinded the Abbey Demons over time. It'll get to a point where like the only thing that stops you from a whip is the price and the levels. And typically, if you're a fresh player, getting 70 attack is easier than getting 2 mil. At least it was when I was leveling up. I had 70 attack, and you know what I mean? Getting that 2 mil was like, seemed a bit more challenging to me than grinding. So like what happens is, if there are like 1,000 players that want to buy a whip, and there's like 200 players that are grinding a couple whips a day, or maybe like 50 players grinding, or 100 players grinding, 2 whips a day, after a week, it's oversaturated. Like they'll get to the point where no one really wants to buy a whip because they already have it. And so that's why the sync comes in, because now you need to get rid of them and get them out of the game, blah, 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 blah. The whole point I'm making though is that this offsets a lot of the intended sync of the whip, and like inherently, because it's not the best attack weapon, like DPS weapon, it'll go down just inherently. That's just how the game is. People don't care as much for it, and people will be using a chaotic rapier, that there is no drawback to using this weapon.
No, exactly. But like, you got to keep in mind that this thing is going to be a lot more expensive than the tentacle whip or just a normal whip is. I don't think we're going to see that much of a drop in price of the whip, personally. I'm not even factoring the mobile people that when the game comes out, because that's going to be a huge item sink in itself, which might cause things to go up a little bit. But I get what you're saying as well, that once I get my Grazier Rapier, I can kind of put my whips to the side or get rid of them. I'm not really going to need them as much.
Yep. Like, it'll turn into, like, using, going through, like, a whip every 2 months would go back to how, like, I was, where a whip literally lasted me over a year, like a tentacle whip, which isn't really a sink because it's just sitting in my bank and I'll never need a new one. Now it's like, fuck, I already ran out of charges. Okay, well, go buy another one. Okay. And, like, now I have, like, an extra whip in my bank just in case I go to Ulm and I finish the boss fight and check and I have 6 attacks left. True story.
It is hard to say, but another thing to keep in mind, and this is a small little benefit, but with the tentacle whip, you do have the chance of poisoning when you attack with it.
Yeah, that's
true.
So
it is the minor benefit there. So I'm sure for like dueling, you're still going to be seeing people with the tentacle whip because you want that chance to getting that extra 6 damage off or whatever it is, but
yeah. Only time will tell, though, so...
Yeah,
we'll just have to check back on this in, like, a year from now, maybe a bit longer. Yeah, maybe a year after the raid's release.
Yeah.
I'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
But, my main gripe with it is that I got excited being like, I think that's really cool that you have to, like, charge a melee weapon with, like, blood runes or something. And then they, like, just went back on it and they didn't even mention why. They did, but I know for a fact they said that. It's fine though. I haven't even checked the polls. I'll still vote yes to this because I do think it's time for a new weapon. And if it doesn't go out well, then hopefully Jagex changes it, and then we look. Because like right now, a lot of people argue on like community wants new items or community wants new niche items, so it doesn't power create the items they already have.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been doing niche items for so long that some of them work, some of them really don't work though. Like Dragon Hunter Crossbow, it was 20 mil, they buffed it. I bitched, I bought mine for 50 mil, but now it's like over 80 mil.
Yeah.
I don't even know how much the Armadillo is, but it's probably dropped a lot.
Armadillo's sitting at 28 mil.
Okay, yeah. So Arma's still pretty up there, but
seems to be going up actually, so
okay, well that's good to see because it's weird that a niche item like overtook the best in slot general use. Like that's like the main thing. So if they keep, and then there's things like the Dragon Bone necklace, which is like it's not, but it's probably elk price by now. It's
at 1 mil or so.
Yeah, the Guardian boots aren't worth that much.
Guardian boots are at about 10 mil.
Yeah, okay, so, you know what? That's good. I take that back. That's nice.
They've actually gone up a little bit. Like, yeah, sometimes things are going up, and I'm not really sure why.
Well, I can answer the Guardian boots with this next item if you want to move on to it.
Sounds good to me.
So, the Justiciar armor. Hopefully I said that right. I always fuck that word up. But, do you want to give us a lore rundown?
Yeah, so the Justiciars were elite warriors in Ceridoman's army during the God Wars. Unlike the rest of his forces, the Justiciars operated alone, often working as assassins and saboteurs. Selected from a variety of races, they were all chosen by Ceridoman himself, who granted them great power. When the vampires invaded Hollowvale, some of the last remaining Justiciars fell in battle. The Justiciars' armor found in Lady Verzik's vault was taken from one of these fallen warriors.
Yeah. So, it is a brand new set. The armor is a brand new set of tradable tank-oriented gear that requires 75 defense to equip them. Each individual piece of armor offers defensive stats slightly better than the Torag's The Corrupted equipment.
Mm-hmm.
But you also get some prayer bonus. So, when you equip the full set of the Justiciar armor, all incoming damage is reduced by X divided by 3,000. So, X is your equipment's defensive bonus. This is based on the attack style being used against you. So, if an enemy is using Crush, and you have a defensive bonus of 450, then it's 450 divided by 3,000, 15% of damage reduction. This armor does not degrade and does not require charging. So, mentioned the prayer bonus is the head is 2, chest and legs are 4, 10 plus 10 bonus. That's pretty nice. But the main thing is the defensive stat set bonus. So
yeah, it's like
this is another
version, its own version that the Elysian Spirit Shield has.
Yeah. So I'm gonna start off by saying we need tank armor in the game. DPS meta is really obnoxious. Where we go to Bandos and I'm bringing a blowpipe even though he's got high defense.
Yeah.
Blowpipe is just so good. You bring max range and that's the best DPS setup. That's silly. And then tank gear, you're wearing fucking stupid gear. You don't have like a tank setup unless it's an LE. So I'm gonna start by saying I really do think a tank setup is needed. But don't you remember when they said that this armor would be as good as Barrows, except for in the raid it would be best in slot?
Well, see, I'm gonna be bringing this up afterwards, but when they say that, they weren't talking about this gear specifically.
Well, they talked about Raids 2 armor.
Yeah, they were.
That's what they were talking about? They didn't say the Justice card, the Justiciar armor, but they said that the armor coming from Raids 2.
Mm-hmm.
Which you assume, this is coming from Raids 2, it would be Torag level, maybe a little bit better than Torag's, but it is really fucking good in the raid. So if you're that guy that likes to spam Raids 2 all the time, you'll be shelling out the cash to get this. But if you're the average PVMer, you might get it because you got a big bonus on your check in Bondscape.
Yeah.
But like in all seriousness, like there was like a set, yeah, this is okay. Because it affects the people that enjoy this type of content and it doesn't affect the game itself. Like,
yeah.
Even though PVM is a very, you could say, like PVM, you could make it very general, but I mean, like, I really like Raids 2, so I wanted to get everything I can for Raids 2, not like I'm going to get best in slot armor for everything.
Yeah, exactly. So that gear you're talking about right there, this wasn't intended to be that part of any of that gear. We talked about before how, I think it was one of the J mods who make the models for like bosses and stuff like that, like one of the artists for the game. He came up with these 3 different sets of armor. One was mage, one was ranged, one was melee. They looked really badass. We posted a link in Discord and we talked about how we really liked them.
Yep.
Those are the ones they're talking about. That would be the Barrows outside of raids, but better in the raids.
Yep.
This gear though isn't one of those 3 sets.
Okay.
So this is like an extra gear piece that.
Yeah, that being said, this gear is like really good tank gear.
It's good.
So my big issue is the like strength of the passive.
Okay, by how much you get a defense reduction.
And the thing is that it's consistent, right? It's a consistent 15% reduction. Okay, so let's say you have a fire cape, a DFS, Dragon Fire Shield, a Ring of Suffering, the Guardian Boots, like barrel gloves, right? And then you have the full Justiciar armor. You'll get a 50% damage reduction to like slash, crush, and stab.
15%?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Which is pretty heavy. I mean, that's not, you could, wear a Fury and stuff like that, right? Whatever. But like, I'm just saying, like those pieces, like just the defensive gear alone, you have a consistent 15% damage reduction. That alone is like, it's not too, okay, minus like the set armor, because obviously that's pretty expensive, but it's not unreasonable to assume that if someone has that armor, they're not gonna, like, you know what I mean? You're gonna have, like, the Dragon Fire Shield isn't even the best shield, but like, it's reasonable, it's, it's not the Ancient Wyvern, whatever the fuck that one is, like.
Yeah.
I just think, like, it's really, really strong to have 50% damage reduction. It makes the Ellie not, I mean, the Ellie's still gonna be really good, but fuck, you could even bring the Ellie with you, sacrifice some defensive stats, lose, like, maybe a percentage.
Yeah.
I mean, that's obviously gonna be expensive as hell. I just think that, okay, 50% is pretty, okay, that's hefty, whatever, but now, anytime tank gear comes out, people are gonna be kind of against it. They're gonna be opposed to it because of this armor. Like, if this armor were to come out, and then they wanted to bring out the Guardian Boots and the Ring of Suffering,
yeah,
a lot of people would be more inclined to say no because, well, this is going to bring these numbers of this, which will make Bandos do this damage. Olm's a shitty example. Make Zamrock do this damage. Like, you know, hey, now I can go do Sire and do this and this, like, or Cerberus. So it literally prevents not literally, but it impedes defensive like items coming in unless it's like a new tank helmet or something, right? Unless it's something that were to break the set bonus. So this alone is strong enough to kind of set in stone what the community will agree on to come into the game for the next couple years because of this, which I don't like. It like puts Jagex in a bit of a corner. It's Blowpipe, T-Bow, Dragon Warhammer 3 5.0. You know what I mean? It's the next step of like gear they bring out that they kind of regret. And then they'll also have to start bringing bosses in that work around this Justiciar armor too. Like they have to do with the Blowpipe and the Twisted Bow and the Dragon Warhammer. Like it's like another one of the items that they have to start making weird shit go down to like, okay, now everyone can do it and it's not too broken for like max geared people.
Yeah, that's a good point. Again, I'll agree there where I like the idea of tank gear, but at the same time, like I like this armor. Don't get me wrong, but now that you mention it, I'm kind of worried that if this does become a problem where they need to start tweaking bosses around this, like you mentioned, Twisted Bow, Blowpipe, Dragon Warhammer even, and now if this armor gets added to the list, I'm sure I'm missing some other ones, but will it be problematic? Because we have seen them just not really touch or tweak the gear to make it less of an issue when it comes to creating new bosses or new content in the future, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a problem with a gear set like this, where like it looks good. It has a cool set, like where you get like a damage reduction based on their attack style they're hitting you with, based on what your defense in that is in total with all your gear. But it feels like you're kind of gambling on whether or not when you vote for this, if they're actually going to touch it, if it becomes like way too crazy. See, like with the Twisted Bow, they've done that with a few things with like Bandos, and the Major in it too is one of the more recent ones. But then you look at something like the Blowpipe, where it's been out for a really long time now, and it's used in almost any scenario that it can be used because it's just the best in slot, hands down. And there was a time when the Blowpipe was very cheap to actually buy. The only reason it's worth like 2 or 3 mil now is because you can destroy it for the scales.
Yeah.
There was a time where you couldn't destroy it for the scales, and it made it just go down in price a lot. But now it sits at basically the price of it is basically how much the scales are worth. So
yeah, my big thing is example. So with that gear I was talking about a bit ago, every time you get hit by a 40, that's -6 damage off that. So you're going to hit by a 34. Every single hit, though. Every time that.
Yeah.
It's the issues that, like, it's very consistently good, I guess. I don't know. I'm just worried. I don't mind if it comes in. The only thing I care about is what are they going to do with the next bosses and stuff that comes out? And how are they going to ever introduce any more tank gear? Or is this like, that's it? Last piece of tank gear we're ever getting? Here you go. Have fun with it. Like, you know, it kind of really puts themselves in a corner. Again, for like the 5th time in a row.
Yeah, exactly. And like, but at the same time, I like the idea of having gear that's tanky gear, but it's it's good tanky gear where like, again, you go to Bandos, you have a designated tank, suddenly he's able to tank a lot better than they actually are. Maybe they don't have to do the whole, because with Bandos and many bosses, the tank will just attack the boss and then have to step underneath them. And it causes the tank not to be able to hit him for a second.
Yep.
Do you think, like, I don't know how you feel, but do you think it's a good idea if gear could come out where they don't have to do that? They could stand and kind of face to face it. They won't be doing much damage, but
yeah. I mean, regardless, if you're like killing like Bandos, for example, no matter what, you'll do that just because you're reducing damage in general being taken. But yeah, I do find that like the tanking mechanics now are just make it so the boss can't hit you and you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of weird. Okay, one thing Why are we still on tier 75? Why isn't the rapier going for 80 or 85 attack, and why isn't this going for 80 or 85 defense? Like, why are we still on 75?
Yeah, see, that's funny. That was something I wanted to bring up as well. No, I agree. I can see why they keep it at 75, where it's like it's not that much better than the Abyssal Tentacle, and that's 75. Well, it's actually not better at all, besides it not being degradable. So they put it at 75 because that's what the tentacle's at and stuff like that. And there isn't really a bunch of, like, there's not really a chest and legs. I'm trying to think, and I don't think there is. For melee, that's 75 defense. But at the same time, it would be nice to introduce a new tier, like maybe 78. That's what we saw the PvP armors are going to be at. I think 78 is a good one to bring it to, and then you can bring it to 80, and then eventually. But I do think that they're afraid to make that leap to the 78 tier because everyone's always worried about power creep. And once you start going up in tiers is when you really, it's like you officially crossed the next line, which I'm not a line, but you cross to the next part of power creep, quote unquote. Yep. But the thing is as well is we talk about power creeping and how like you don't necessarily want, like the thing is you need to do power creep properly. That's the thing. You need to do it at some point, but you need to do it properly. Because without a power creep, people get bored. You don't want to get stuck at Bandos being the best armor, hands down, for the rest of RuneScape's life, right? You want it to eventually have an upgrade. But at the same time, you do it too fast and you lose the room to have enough gear to keep people entertained. Because once you're at tier 99, you know what I mean? Then what?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to give upgrades. We got to do it properly. Yeah, it's tricky. Although this Judiciaries piece, if they were going to make a tier 78, I feel like this is the set that would be the tier 78.
Yeah.
You know, the Rapier could be, it looks like it'd be fine at a 75 because it's still on par with that shit. But yeah, I mean, again, like I mentioned, there isn't really a set gear that's at 75 defense right now. You know, you got like a shield and you got like a helmet. You got boots, you know what I mean? But there is missing some pieces, so.
But yeah, we'll move on to though. So the next item is the Vampirium Vambraces. Do you want to give us a little lore rundown?
Yeah, I'll sneak in here. The Vampirium Vambraces are amongst the oldest items in Lady Verzik's vault. They were crafted back when the vampires still lived in Vampirium. The original use was to assist the vampires in their fight against the Urasa.
Yep, so the Vampirium Vambraces are a new tradable ranged hand slot item that requires 75 range and 75 defense to be equipped. Due to their age, when you first obtain them, they are broken and they require repairing. This is done by combining them with a pair of ranger gloves. Just like the Pegasian crystal is used to combine the boots, you'll do the same thing for the gloves. They're slightly more offensive. Like, they have the slightly better offensive bonuses than the Barrows gloves, and less defensive.
So we kind of saw something similar to this with the Rev Caves, right?
Yeah, this is like 2.0 of the gloves, and it's kind of like I said, I don't want them being in the Rev Caves because that's a lame way to get them. Make them unlock through a quest or through raids, and this is what they did.
Yeah, this is kind of what they did. That being said, personally, I am not a big fan of having to use the Ranger gloves.
Why is that? So I should mention that the Vambraces have a +2 range strength. Barrows obviously has none, and it's got a 2 more accuracy. So
like, the reason I don't like the range gloves, because the range gloves, they're basically, they're as strong, like range gloves are as strong as black Vambraces, right?
Yep.
Whereas barrel gloves are already better than black Vambraces. Now, I'm not saying you should have to pair the barrels gloves up with what is it? What did they say you have to attach it to?
Just the Vambraces themselves.
Okay, so you attach, I'm not saying you should attach the barrels gloves to the Vambraces to create them, because that makes even less sense than the Inferno Defender with the Dragon Defender, because you don't need a barrels glove sync at all. I don't know, the range gloves just seems a little gimmicky. Like, I found that the Pegasian crystal to the Ranger boots were a little bit gimmicky in the sense that it's kind of weird that the best in slot range boots have to come from a clue scroll, medium clue scroll of that. You know what I mean? That's weird in the first place, but the Ranger boots are so old that, like, they've been kind of grandfathered in. I'm not giving them a pass, but you can't just take them out of the clue scrolls all of a sudden. So I get why that's there. But the range gloves, that comes from an elite clue scroll, and it was meant to be mainly for pures, right? Let me look this up.
Use it to train up until 70 range?
Yeah, because unlike the black Van Braces, you don't need 70 range for them. You just need 40 range for these with no defense.
Yep.
It's not even like best in slot is what I'm trying to get at. Like the range boots, the reason those kind of work with the Pegasian crystal is because they are the best in slot. Even though it's weird they come from a clue scrolls. These come from a clue scroll, but they're not even best in slot. Which is why I'm like, I don't know. It seems a bit gimmicky. Not, you know what I mean?
I mean, what would you attach them to?
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't want to do black Van Braces because you don't need a black Van Brace sink. You don't want to do Barrows gloves. I'm not too sure, but I'm sure if I spent some time sitting down, it could come up with a better idea. You know what I mean? On how you do this. It just, I don't know. Well, and then look at the Pegasian crystal. That thing is worth like $60,000 because of the Ranger boots, right? And how rare they are to get. And you have to go grind like a, medium clue scrolls, which is kind of like a lower tier activity.
Yep.
So that caused the crystals to just drop down in price. So we might see something similar with this, where like the Van Braces, did they say they're tradable?
Yep.
Yeah, so the Van Braces I could see it dropping down in price eventually. And the reason the Vampirium Van Braces are so expensive being because the Ranger gloves go up in price, or whatever it is. They're going to sit at whatever the Ranger gloves fall to, because they're going to be the harder thing to get. That's my guess, looking at the Cerberus,
Yeah. I don't know. I do find it weird that you could just, you can buy the best in slot range gloves, but now you have to buy them in 2 pieces. How come you can't, what about the Tormented Bracelet? I don't know. I think it's weird. Tormented Bracelet, you know what I mean? You get a Zenyte Shard and you're set, right? Zenyte Shard or the Zenyte Gem or whatever, and the Onyx, and you fuse them together and you make the Tormented Bracelet.
Mm-hmm. But you can buy a Tormented Bracelet. You don't need to make it yourself.
Exactly. And with the Rangers, why do we have to buy 2 pieces? If let's say this update came out and I wanted to buy the Ranger gloves, why do I now have to buy 2 pieces? Doesn't it seem weird?
Well, the thing is, it doesn't say whether or not you could trade it before it's been repaired.
It says
just as the Vampirium Van Braces are a new tradable hand slot.
So
a new tradable range.
The way it's pulled is should the Vampirium Van Braces be a potential war? Blah, 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 blah. The Vampirium braces require whatever to equip. They're made by combining the Van Braces with the Ranger gloves, and they'll be tradable. So I don't know. They don't really specify. I don't know. Best in slot range gloves. Honestly, I have no idea. I don't really know what to think about these. I kind of have to just say no comment, because I said they should come in through raids or request, and this is what they're doing. And I'm just well, okay. I guess it's time, right?
Yeah, like I said, I don't mind the stats itself. The only thing I don't like about it is that it's the range gloves that are used. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's nitpicking, I guess, but yeah.
Yeah. We have 2 more items to go over. So, next item is the Scythe of Vitur. Do you want to go over this, the lore?
Yeah, let's do it. Of all of Lady Verzik's possessions, one of the most valuable is the Scythe of Vitur. This legendary weapon was once wielded by the founder of House Vitur, a vampire now worshipped as a god.
Yeah, so the weapon is extremely slow, and it's a hard-hitting tradable 2-handed weapon. It is a scythe, obviously. It looks pretty cool. Well, the model, not the coloring, but the model itself looked pretty cool. It was pink in the tournament worlds, but
if I'm not mistaken, it was pink, but it kind of looked like the Halloween scythe you can get.
Yep. So it has, so maybe that's not even what it'll look like at all. Now that I think about it. Never mind. Scratch that. It has no special attack. It can hit up to 3 enemies at once in a 1x3 arc in front of the player. It's similar to the special attacks of the Dragon and Crystal Halberd. Each swing can also hit large creatures up to 3 times in the same attack. The scythe can only hit a maximum of 3 NPCs and can only hit a maximum of 3 times. The first hit deals 100%, second will deal 50%, and third will deal 25%, regardless of which enemy is your primary target. So the attacks are rolled independently based on your attack bonuses and versus the NPC's defense bonuses.
True, okay.
Scythe requires 75 attack and strength to wield. It has 2 variants, uncharged and charged. The uncharged has relatively low stats, but once charged, it gains additional bonuses. Charging the scythe costs 1/100th of a vial of blood and 3 blood runes, meaning 100 charges would cost a vial of blood and 300 blood runes.
Not bad. I like that. I like this weapon. It seems pretty cool. Again, I feel like a lot of these need to come into the game before you can see if they're whether or not they're broken. But it seems like a pretty cool idea where it's like a slow, hard-hitting weapon, and the plus side is that you can hit 3 monsters at once, or you can hit a big monster 3 times.
Yep.
It has its like niche where it can kind of fit and do something a bit differently. And on top of that, having to charge it with 300 blood runes. You know what I mean? There's charging your melee weapon right there.
Yep.
Yeah, like reading through the dev blog and seeing kind of it being used in the tournament world, it seems good. But again, time will only tell how the issues that could arise from this thing.
Yeah. I honestly don't see how useful it would be. I don't know where you'd be using this. I do believe its max hit is 90 though, on a Slayer task and everything. 90 total. If you're hitting one big target, like all 3 hits in total will be 90 or 92, I believe.
Yeah, it's a pretty big hit.
Yeah, we'll just move on to the next thing, which actually I'm really excited for. It sounds super neat. It is the TzHaar Shroud. Yeah, you want to do like the little lore thing?
Yeah, I'll slip in here. In the courtyard outside of the Theater of Blood, a mysterious figure watches. No one knows why he is there, but he takes a great interest in any who would enter the theater. Anyone who manages to survive the theater may find that his figure has a strange gift for them. A shroud of unknown origin.
Yeah, so the TzHaar Shroud is entirely cosmetic cape. Players will receive it after completing the Theater of Blood, and it is possible to change the appearance of it after 100, 500, 1,000, 2,500, and 5,000 times. So there are kill count requirements to change the effects of this cosmetic cape.
Cool.
Which is super neat. I'm surprised it isn't. Should this be combinable with the max cape? But I'm surprised that there isn't already a poll saying, should we make this a good cape for something? Because people aren't okay with cosmetics? I don't know. I do think it's really neat to have a cosmetic base like this.
It seems like it's a replacement for a pet from this raid.
Yeah, which I like. What are you going to add? A vampire? A succubus that follows you around? Like,
well, you could do a bat.
I don't know.
A snail.
Just a puddle of blood.
Yeah.
Blood runes.
Yeah, you can have a blood rune.
But yeah, I don't know. I do think it's really neat to have a cosmetic cape that like changes upon kill count achievements.
Yeah, I agree.
And it gives you more of a reason to grind out, 5,000 kills, I guess.
Yeah, you get something to show for it.
Yeah. That being said, that is it for all the items. So all these items and all potions we talked about have been put in a poll on RuneScape right now, so you can go ahead and vote. We'll move on to the next thing. All right, so it is everyone's favorite. It is Deadman Finals.
Woo woo.
And the season clarification. So, yeah. So they changed the Zenite rings to become craftable. This change was, reverted
The change was made following community feedback and reverts a prior decision. The supply chests, so the location of supply chests have been changed, and there's an updated image on where they'll be. Once the lethal fog warning has begun, you'll be able to see in-game where the chests will spawn. The items are the same as in the last tournament, but the ordering is different, and we won't reveal the order ahead of the tournament. You'll be notified in the chat box, as with the winter finals.
Mm-hmm.
The permadeath phase. So they've changed the manner in which the fog operates before the arena section. Anyone who has stood in the lethal fog once it jumps will be instantly killed. Anybody entering the lethal fog when it isn't jumping will be hit for an increasing amount of damage for the longer they're stood in the fog. Anybody who ignores the increasing damage and travels further into the lethal fog will be instantly killed. Generally speaking, the changes are kinder to those who happen to find themselves accidentally entering areas which are covered by lethal fog. So you won't see those funny clips of YouTubers going into caves and dying and then making fun of themselves about it for like 2 years now. And the jokes definitely aren't stale at all. Yeah. The final 1v1 permadeath phase. So the bank chest accessible in the 1v1 stage has a venerate option, which allows you to change your spellbook. Phoenix necklaces correctly act as food in 1v1s, meaning they will be removed when your inventory is replaced. And once 128 players who have qualified the arena section have been teleported to the arena, they will have the opportunity to access their bank chests. Players will access their bank for 5 minutes, and this is the only opportunity they have to bank throughout the arena section. We have changed the manner in which fog operates during the arena section, so it all rounds up to, but not including to, the semifinal stages with 4 players remaining. They're given 5 minutes to fulfill their 1v1 fights, and after 5 minutes, damaging fog will fill the arena, hitting them for 5s. For the semifinals and finals, the arena fog is manually activated. Once activated, players will receive a 30-second warning, and they'll get hit for 5s. I think that's kind of neat, just in case the fights start getting stale, Jagex can say, alright, hit a button and just start killing them.
Yeah, take them out.
So this is where it gets juicy. For the summer season, just the overview for the summer season, they made some changes. So the act of muling during the summer season is prohibited and is bannable. The act of swapping is prohibited and bannable.
Ooh.
Starter packs will be available, each reclaimable once per day. They cannot be used in PvP. They are not tradable except where specified.
Interesting.
What is a starter pack? Well, good question. Where is it? A starter pack contains a staff charged with the equivalent of 500 fire strikes, a bow which is charged the equivalent of 2,000 bronze arrows, and a scimitar wieldable from level 1 attack, equivalent to a myth scimitar. You get 1 combat potion, 12 tuna.
Interesting.
Those are tradable. The tuna and combat potion.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting. It's
Yep.
Guess we'll see how that plays out. Gives people a chance to train if they fall behind.
It makes it so you're not forced to do the freaking stronghold of security and then you get killed by someone and now you're set back 40 minutes off dying at the very beginning.
Yeah.
But
true.
with the experience caps and locking, the daily cap for magic has been increased to 750k and no other caps have been changed.
Cool.
And you have the ability to lock and unlock experience gains in specific skills.
Okay.
Yep. Increased resources. So Slayer monsters, bosses, superiors drop resources upon death. Certain fishing spots yield 3 times the amount of fish resource. They will confirm what specific monster they have confirmed which specific monsters and resources and those are. Wait, they don't actually specify who they are. They just say they will and then they. So I think they did this beforehand, but Callisto, Venenatis, Vedian, Chaos Elemental have a 1 in 3 chance of dropping a 4-dose brew. The Scorpia, Crazed Archaeologist, and Chaos Fanatic have a 1 in 5 chance of dropping a 4-dose brew. Yeah, they have a list of things that they've changed. There's like a lot of things they've added to their Deadman mode this season. They've changed quite a bit. Yeah, so like with the runes and arrows, every type of rune and every type of arrow have been added to every rune and arrow shop. It's to prevent people from holding, a monopoly on bone bolts or something, or making a lot of money off of them.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
And the respawn rates are at the maximum.
Cool.
Quest experience and achievement diary experience lamps don't count towards the daily experience cap anymore, so now you're rewarded for grinding out those quests. And when you die at the agility pyramid, all the agility pyramid tops will turn into cash upon death.
Right. And they worth like 10k each or something?
Yeah. There will also be a 30-minute immunity period at the beginning of the summer season. This is a server-wide immunity and not to specific accounts. So if you want to get there on day one, feel free to just jump on. You have 30 minutes of immunity when the servers open, you have 30 minutes of immunity. So It's not, if you're 20 minutes late, you only have 10 minutes. It's not like every account gets 30 minutes. It's just a flat, right off the bat. You're not going to get cheesed running somewhere. You're 30 minutes of immunity. That's going to open up you to get some of the quests done right off the bat, some of the good quests, and maybe you don't want to sit there and do agility for the first bit. But yeah, that's a quick summary of Dead Man mode.
Yeah, not bad. It's cool to see them constantly doing these changes, and the last MMO is really good. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Mm-hmm. All the ones before that one, there's always at least one issue with something, you know what I mean? Something went fucky.
Yep.
Last one was the best one yet.
The winner bought it.
Yeah, that was the only issue. But, they caught him.
Yep.
So, which really, from a spectator standpoint, was still a great tournament to watch. So hopefully this one continues in that direction.
Yeah. That being said, the tournament is going on right now as we speak, and it will end. Mm-hmm. The final hour is on the 17th, Saturday, and it begins at 7 p.m. GMT. Eastern Standard Time was at 3 or 4. I don't know. But at 7 p.m. GMT on Saturday, the 17th, that is when the final hour will begin. And then directly after that final hour, that's when the next seasonal starts, the summer season that we just went and talked about.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so all that shit being said, the quality of life month is over, of course, and these are the final updates that we'll be talking about now from the quality of life. So the spinning wheel interface has been updated to use a make all interface.
Okay.
Here's the biggest one. Tears of Gothic streams now last a minimum of 9 seconds before moving.
Ooh.
So you can now consistently get the maximum runecrafting experience, or in my case, fire making, I guess.
Ew.
Players may store buckets, compost, super compost, ultra compost, plant cure with the leprechaun in noted versions of the item.
Okay.
The amount of experience you receive when splashing the entangle spell has been slightly reduced, so you know when the bind has been applied. Mm-hmm. The dark core pet no longer has sound attached to its animations. And another data orb, and you probably noticed this one, but another data orb has been added to your minimap to display your current special attack. You cannot click the orb to do your specs, sadly. That'd be a little broken.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Cool, fun stuff. What a week this has been. I guess we'll bring this on to the community section, or what has been going on in the community, I should say. Well, the first thing that I had pulled up here was the fact that hardcore Ironmen will lose their status when they die in Raids 2. There's been a bit of controversy, but really it is kind of silly that with Raids 1, they were able to get these raid... they could get raid gear without ever having to worry about fucking up and losing their status, right?
Yep, you can get your best in slot gears without losing your status. It's safer to get a twisted bow than to get a Kelphite Queen head.
Yeah, exactly. So, kind of silly, so it makes sense there, but there's a little bit of an outcry for that. Again, on the theme of Raids 2, people were unhappy with the name of the Infernal Defender. I guess when people hear Infernal, they instantly think of the Infernal Cape or the Fight Caves or things to do with the TzHaar. Now, the only reason I'm bringing this up now because I kind of wanted to touch on it beforehand, but the idea is, as we mentioned, it was made in the realm called Infernus, which is basically hell, and it's where basically the demons live. Doesn't have really anything to do with the TzHaar. It's a little bit of lore there, I guess, tying that in. And again, Raids 2. And we talked about this before, about the 3 sets of gear, one being range, one being mage, one being melee. That was supposed to be as good as Barrows outside of raids, but like best in slot in the raids. It doesn't. So as you know, we went through all the items pulled, and those were absent from that list.
Yeah, what the fuck, Jagax?
Yeah, because they looked fucking really good.
Yeah. Make them purely cosmetic. I just want them in the game. They look sick.
They look cool that I want them to have some decent stats. You know what I mean?
Just make them bronze base. Make them as good as iron, and I'll still be down.
You'll still be rocking those when you're doing your Slayer task?
Oh, yeah.
Well, anyways, yeah, they were absent from that list. We don't know whether or not they're going to come up with another pull bringing these out, but they did talk about having this type of armor, so it's kind of weird. We did get a comment from Mod West talking about this, and his comment is, never fear. While they may not be used this time around, there's always room for the sets to be used in other pieces of content. So that to me sounds like they won't be coming from raids. And while we might see this gear come into the game one day, it'll be at some other piece of content. Although I feel like that's I don't know. I feel like you really could add those in and just get, I don't know, if they felt proper for the raids too. Theater of Blood.
Especially if the gear is, if the raid is geared towards 5 people, let's just say the Justiciar armor comes out. I believe it was 4 images we saw, right?
There was actually 3.
Okay, well 3,
if I'm not mistaken.
Plus the Justiciar, it's 4, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like it should come out with the raids, especially if it's geared for 3 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you want to keep it in line, so if you have like 4 buddies, or you go in with a total of 5 people, you all could wear a set, and be cool. But
yeah,
I don't know.
It looked badass. It felt that it really worked with the theme, the cosmetics, like the way it looked. So yeah, kind of a shame, but hopefully, hopefully we can push to get that into a poll to see if they can make it into raids too. And yeah, besides that, I don't know if this is something that we should bring up, but probably should, since the community kind of had an uproar about it, or it was, if you're on the Reddit, that's all you would see for the past couple days. But so we'll just briefly bring it up, and I don't think there's really much to talk about. There's a popular YouTuber that goes by the name A Friend. He recently had a stream where he took donations for in-game gold. People donated him like $3 bill worth of gear. After that, the next video that came out was basically him trying to get 150 mil doubled from a scammer at the GE. And of course, he lost the gear. And a lot of people are very unhappy with that.
Yeah. A lot of it is, well, you donated, your fault. I think a lot of it is his attitude too. There's people, he was making comments in his CC being like, well, that's your fault, you're a fucking idiot, it's my money, fuck yourself, saying some racist stuff too, but he was just kind of like, well, you go fuck yourself, it's my content, not yours, don't watch it.
Yeah, it kind of happens. I guess people get bored of the game, I guess, and again, the only reason I really felt the need to bring this up is because you'd see it everywhere. On top of that, he is one of the most popular YouTubers for old school RuneScape, but really, if you don't watch his videos, you're not going to give a shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Makes no difference to you. It's a moot point. So yeah. And that's about it that kind of went on in the community for the most part. The reason I say it like that is because this gives us a chance to introduce a new segment I think we should bring onto the show. It's not something you're going to see every episode, but I think we talk about this type of stuff enough that it might deserve its own little theme music. So I haven't really thought of a name for this one, so we'll just keep it nice and blunt. The new segment will be focusing on some good old-fashioned, or I should say old-school, RuneScape conspiracy theories. So what we're going to be talking about this week. So we were talking about the Ranger gloves being used to create this new vampire braces. Well, it turns out that on February 25th of this year, the Ranger gloves, the price of the Ranger gloves got inflated to about $2 million per glove. And we saw a huge increase in somebody or some people buying these gloves on the 25th of February. Where it's not always uncommon for maybe a merchant clan to kind of pick an item to merch. What made this bizarre was that before the February 25th, a couple days earlier, a bunch of streamers saw a list of the items that were going to be released with Raids 2, or the items that were going to be put into this dev blog. So the question is, did somebody affiliated with any of those streamers hear about these range gloves being used as a piece of this new gear and decide to buy a bunch of all of those for that when this dev blog was released, they'd be able to flip them? They went from, let's just go with the $2 million price. At one point, they were about $50 million after this dev blog was released. Now they're currently sitting at around $8 million, between $8 and $10 million. So, I don't know.
It was Ma Jed.
What? Oh, someone say Ma Jed? Maybe he's behind this, you know. Vodka conspiracy, Rav Caves conspiracy.
Yep.
No. See, I'm not too sure because what were they at before 2 mil?
We could
That's
pull
the
these
big
up.
question.
I'm not actually seeing where it was spiked up in price. What we're seeing here is there's roughly about 100 Ranger gloves being sold and bought per day. Yet, on February 25th, there was a little bit over double that amount. Where the next following days, it went back down to about 100.
Wait, what are you looking at this from?
The OS buddy, the amount traded.
Okay, because the site says 200 to, averages 200 a day until the 7th. The day before went to 400 and then... But there is a weird trend. It goes from 200 to 400, 300, down to less than 100, or over 100, then almost 300, then 400, and then 2.1k, which is the day the update came out.
So it's hard to say. You know, it could just be by chance. But I thought it would be fun to bring this one up and a great way to introduce this new segment of ours. And we do know that that there were a couple streamers showing this because Skidler, who is one of the Deadman Mode commentators, made a tweet on February 23rd saying, just been shown all the potential Raids 2 rewards, and holy shit, cannot wait for that content. As well as when this devblog came out, people on Bhooleys stream, who is a very popular old school RuneScape streamer on twitch.tv, when he was looking through them, he made the offhand comment just saying, yeah, I'm kind of aware of all these already. I'm not saying it's any of those two, but we do know that we don't know exactly how many people were showing this, but we do know at least 2 were. And I'm sure there's a ton that were kind of we're more hush-hush about it.
Yeah. Looking at the graphs, it kind of dips and goes down kind of consistently up until looking on the RuneScape site, the GE site, it kind of sits around averages 200 a day, and it'll dip to go up to 300 from the 25th 3rd, it went from 200 to 300, and then down to 150, and then it dips up to 400, and it stays, like, goes from 200 to 300 or 400, kind of consistently, depending on the day. And then it, like, I don't know, more are being traded on average, I guess, up on the week leading to the day of the update, which 2,200, pretty well, rounding up, but 2,200 were sold that day, or traded, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It could be like one of those things. It could also be something where the Ranger gloves are going up in price, so people try and make a quick flip on them, and it just turned out that boom, this happened. But, you know, it happened with the vodka, right? The vodka's skyrocketed in price before the Fossil Island update.
Yeah, we saw that some player had bought like 1,000 of them or something.
Yeah, so it's likely that this happened again. I don't know, though.
Yeah. So, that's not too big. I can tell from your reaction, not a huge fan of that one, but that's okay. We'll try another.
I'm just saying, it's Mod Jed.
Anyways, we'll move on from that one. This one a little bit smaller on the conspiracy scale, but let's talk about this one. So, last Dead Man Mode tournament, we had seen a certain, I guess, Dead Man Mode finalist, someone who made it into the finals. They were killed when they were facing somebody who was using a bunch of gear, but part of that gear was a Ring of Suffering, which, if you don't know, it's more of a defensive ring.
Yep, you can charge it with Rings of Recoil. It's very, very good defensive ring.
Yeah, it is pretty good, and yeah, it could be pretty decent in Dead Man Mode. So the player that was killed by this other person with the Ring of Suffering, and I almost feel like we've talked about him before when it comes to Dead Man Mode because his name looks familiar, and most of the time I feel like I'm out of the loop when it comes to these high-profile RuneScapers. Anyways, this player is named Wriggled. He had tweeted Mod Sween saying, you guys should look into the Ring of Suffering because it is a little overpowered in Dead Man Mode. They're just saying it'd be a good idea for that to get removed. So Mod Sween says, in reply to the tweets, I will forward that concern to the development team. And then later on, we see that, boom, Ring of Suffering gets removed from it, from being able to use. And there were a couple people, or maybe clans, who had the specific plan to rush the Ring of Suffering. Now, this was changed like 2 days prior to the finals, or the last week tournament.
Of last season, or this season?
This season here.
Okay.
And the thing is, we didn't even talk about it in the dev blog, really, because there is a whole separate section on the Oldschool RuneScape website that is just about Dead Man Mode tweaks. We talked about some of them, but there's a lot of them. There's a whole page of it that doesn't really get talked about, because maybe they're just so minor in detail that it's not entirely worth mentioning in its own dev blog.
They have a changelog that isn't in the news section. It's in its own section in the Deadman area, I guess. I mentioned it quickly. I think I did, at least, but maybe I didn't.
But the thing is like, it's kind of a way to sneak changes in, because unless you're checking that page consistently, how would you know that all these changes are happening? Especially if it's happening 2 days before the final week is happening.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people iron out a whole plan on what they're going to be doing, and they have like step by step on how they're going to work through quests, how they're going to work through content. But you do something like this, you could really fuck a few people over, especially when it's unannounced, right?
Yep.
So,
yeah, it is kind of weird that the best in slot amulets and stuff like that get removed 2 days before a $20,000 tournament or whatever, with no big announcement.
Yeah.
I'm gonna beat a dead horse and say Mod Jed is probably behind this.
You know, you're damn.
It's those eyebrows, man. They're untrustworthy. Hide a lot of lies in those. But yeah, no, that is kind of sketchy.
It's a little weird.
And is there even really a good reason to take them out? Like, if you're able to get them with your clan or on your own, shouldn't you deserve a Ring of Suffering? Especially seeing how half the use of it is charging recoils in with it.
And the problem with this is it kind of streamlines it, like it turns it into like a very linear based tournament where like you have a lot of people who are now going for the similar goals. You might have somebody who's going for a whip and other people being like, fuck that, I'm going to go for the Zenite crystals shard, like the Zenite shards, and work towards, instead of maybe the best in slot weapons, I'm going to work into the best in slot jewelry. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's a different approach to it. But suddenly you remove those, and suddenly that's not a route people are going to be taking.
And now what's the use of doing Monkey Madness 2? Because actually getting to the Zenite shards is quite the feat, you know? It's a lot of dedication to actually get there.
And you're definitely not wanting to go there for that ballista, because that's a hard piece of gear to get. You got to get like 4 different pieces.
Yeah.
Which are all RNG based, right? So, yeah. And I think that's where we'll cut her out for that one. But you know what? It's up to you guys to think whether or not some trickery's going on there. Yeah, well, we're going to be moving it on now, but let us know what you guys think about that. Because we do talk... the reason I wanted to bring up that little segment is because in the past we have talked about quote-unquote conspiracies, whether it's microtransactions or this mobile game, the mobile client being released, or things like that. So I thought this would be a fun way to give us a chance to kind of talk about these things with a little bit of background music to go along with it. Fuck, I was such a bitch to get this thing set up, so I kind of want to take advantage when I can.
Oh yeah.
All right. That being said, we will move on to our lore for the week. This week for lore, we're going to be talking about the TzHaar race. Pretty sure I've touched on this race in one of the earlier lore sections of the show, but this week we're going to dive a little bit deeper. The TzHaar reside in a city called Mor Ulrich, which is underground where the Karamja volcano is. The TzHaar are an ancient yet sophisticated society. There are no other civilizations that resemble their own. Despite their appearance, the TzHaar are a peaceful race and have existed beneath the surface of Karamja for thousands of years. Even to this day, many parts of their society still remain a great mystery amongst us. The TzHaar appear roughly humanoid, but are made of solid obsidian and magma. They possess 4 arms and are a lot physically stronger than humans. The TzHaar are born from eggs, which are incubated in birthing pools full of molten lava throughout the city. The TzHaar have a unique ability of being able to transfer memory at birth. There's much debate on how this is done, but we do know they are able to pass on their memories and obtain past memories from their ancestors before them. The TzHaar being such an ancient race, this allows them to be very, very wise as well. It is believed that the deeper that eggs are placed within the lava, the more memories they are able to absorb. They live very long lives, although the exact length is still unknown. As they grow older, their bodies begin to lose heat and solidify. To prolong life, they have built terminal chambers throughout the volcano where the TzHaar can go in order to draw warmth from the volcano. When the TzHaar die, their bodies harden and they lose all mobility and become what they call the Hartok. Once this happens, it is told their minds still remain in their solidified and petrified body, which you can often see displayed in the city in a statue-like state. At times, they are also broken down into holy currency that is used throughout the city called Tokal. At birth, a TzHaar uses a caste system when choosing what they will do in their life. This system is chosen based on their physical and mental traits, and when a job is chosen, they must follow it for the rest of their life. In their society, there are 4 different roles one can be put into. The TzHaar Ket, They are the guardians and police force of the city. They generally tower physically over the other castes, and they follow a very, quote, noble code. The weapons they often carry are obsidian mauls, called TzHaar Ket Om, and obsidian maces, called TzHaar Ket M. If there is ever an invasion on their city, the TzHaar Ket are the first to defend it. The next role is the TzHaar Xil. They are a hunting class that are also very adept in combat. They generally carry an obsidian sword, known as TzHaar Act, a obsidian knife or dagger, known as the TzHaar Ek, and obsidian throwing rings, known as TzHaar Ul. The next role are the TzHaar. They are the craftsman class of the city. When in battle, they use only their fists, but they are the ones who are crafting all of the weapons and armor within the city. And the last role are the TzHaar Mej. They are a mystic class that governs and leads the city. Whether or not a single TzHaar rules is unclear, but it seems that the TzHaar Mej are all part of a council. They are thought as being the wisest and often carry a staff known as the Tokt's Mej Tal. The TzHaar use their own language when speaking to each other. To us, this has not been fully understood or translated, and we only currently know a few basic words and phrases. The TzHaar refer to humans as Jal Yit. Jal translates to foreigner, while Yit translates to cold. So to them, we are literally known as cold foreigner. The TzHaar religion is a mystery. Many believe they follow an ancient god, one who may have created the volcano. This has not been confirmed, but we do know that they believe in an afterlife. It is also rumored that the gods they worshipped are of the elder gods, the ones who had created Gielinor and Runescape itself. But whether they follow a god or not, the TzHaar see their volcano that they live as sacred. The legend says they were created along with it at the dawn of time, from sacred fires of the forgotten earth. Along with them, many other creatures were created with them, which they also view as sacred. The TzHaar believe that when they die, their souls will eventually be brought back to the heart of the volcano and given new life. Prophecy says that one day their race will draw to an end. The volcano will sink back into the earth, and cold seas will flood the city, bringing an end to their people forever. So as I said, we know they are an ancient race, but there's still very little known about their actual history. Many believe that they were born during the First Age, perhaps when Guthix had created the volcano. But many other also believe TzHaar may be a remnant from an age in Gielinor that predates even Guthix himself. So whether or not Guthix had created them, or one of the elder gods, they could very well be the oldest race in RuneScape. They lived for thousands of years beneath the holy fires of the volcano, lasting out the Second Age, as well as the Third Age, the God Wars, with little surface contact. For millennia, they were able to carve out a great city underground, entering an age of prosperity with no war, crime, or even the concept of evil. In the year 169 of the Fifth Age, a continuous stream of contact was finally established between the TzHaar and the outside world. They still remain cautious to humans and have much of their city blocked off, only allowing the most worthy to enter. In order to enter the main parts of their city, you must prove yourself worthy by defeating the Fight Caves. The Fight Caves is to prove yourself in strength by defeating the fearsome TzHaar, a very sacred monster that they hold in high regards. In the very heart of their city, there is an area that was once one of the largest birthing pools or incubators in the TzHaar city. This was created by digging an extremely deep incubator to place their eggs. Eventually, they drained the chamber of all lava, creating a large sinkhole that proceeded to reveal the Inferno, which in itself is an extremely ancient incubation chamber. They decided to place their eggs deep in there to unlock many ancient memories from their ancestors. But the result was that when the eggs had hatched, feral monsters were born out of them, which began to fight each other for dominance. The TzHaar were very intimidated by these monsters, that even the strongest TzHaar Ket are hesitant to challenge them. Over time, one of these feral monsters was able to prove their dominance over the rest, which the TzHaar call TzHaar Zuk, where the only way they could contain the beast was by offering it sacrifices to keep him inside the Inferno. And that's where we're going to end it this week with lore. All right, and there's your lore, just in case you guys wanted a little bit more besides the new Theater of Blood. Or hell, what if that shit don't even pass? All that work into that lore for nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, well, so we're going to wrap her up because...
it's time.
Yeah, it's time, and we've talked in length this episode, it feels like. Anyways, I mentioned last week that within our little community, we had a friend of the show, Bhooleys, who is doing another giveaway where he's giving away the Dwarf Cannon, I guess, miniature. It's a mini version of the Dwarf Cannon, but it still looks like a fair size. And looks really nice. There's pictures and videos of it in the events channel on Discord. If that's something you're interested in, keep your eyes and ears peeled. And he mentioned he would like to do this event probably at the end of this month or the beginning of next month. So at the end of March or the beginning of April. So stay tuned in the upcoming weeks and we'll let you know more of the details. As for what's going to happen, not really too sure. The little teaser is probably going to require a Dwarf Cannon. We'll see later on. And you're probably wondering, how can you keep in touch with the show or keep in touch with us? There's a few ways of doing that. You can hang out with us in-game on Oldschool Runescape under the clan chat WildCC. If you want to follow us on Twitter, it is at TheWildernessRS. Our Facebook is facebook.com/TheWildernessPodcast. Our email is TheWildernessPodcast@gmail.com. If you want to join our Discord, we have a link posted on both Facebook and Twitter. And I think they're still running. They should be, because I haven't heard anything that they haven't been. And every now and then when I go to check, they seem to be doing good. So go on there and you can find it. But if you're having trouble, just let one of us know and we will get you a link. And yeah, Deegan, you got anything you want to throw out there for yourself?
My Twitch and my Twitter is DeeganRS.
Solid.
Yeah, I live stream periodically. Generally, I just stream raids. There's not really much I do as of right now. I do like a lot of the other boring content off stream, so a lot of it is like raids and PVM focused. Yeah, so come check that out whenever. Feel free to drop in and say hi. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool stuff. So I think we should get out of here. Please leave us feedback if there's any parts of the show that you guys aren't a huge fan of. Just let us know. But if you're digging everything, then we'll just keep on doing what we're doing then.
Yep.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening. Tune in next week for the 76er.
Yeah. Yeah, have a good one.
All right, take care.